spent a lot of time looking throughout the city to determine what are the right areas to be making these types of investments, and landed on Huff Central and St. Clair Superior for a variety of reasons, not just because they have great bones in their commercial district, they have tremendous culture, I think, already within them, but at the same time, nearly 50% of the land in St. Clair Superior is vacant, right? So there are a lot of things that all come together that we think make this the right place for these types of investments. And so ultimately, when we think about the Housing Innovation District, we are trying to make it easier for people to invest in housing of all typologies. We are also investing in the infrastructure and the people of these neighborhoods, and creating a mechanism that can make a lot of the investments possible over the course of time. And I think we like to say, right, like, we are not just trying to sell houses here, we are investing in our neighborhoods. And so why St. Clair Superior, why Huff, why Central? And I kind of mentioned a few of those reasons, and the fact that, again, I think that this is the right mix of things. And so this is the geography that we have centered around. And when you look at that, kind of the purple and the green areas, ultimately, legally, this will be one TIF district, which we'll talk about in a second. But we kind of talk about them separately because the northern area in purple and St. Clair Superior, primarily residential in nature. That southern area in green, where the midline going, primarily commercial in nature, and they do work together. But also, I think when we talk about why we look at an area like this, you have to think about the investments that are occurring around this area, right? So you think about the $300+ million that is going into the Cheers project, which is going to redefine the northern lakeshore around these neighborhoods. You look at the $25+ million that is going into the Superior Midway project that comes up to East 55th Street, the $10+ million into Gordon Park. All the investments around East 66th Street that the Cleveland Foundation is involved in. $16 million in the Patrick Parker Sailing Center, right? Over $500 million of civic investment is starting to surround these areas. And then again, that announcement that came out just a couple of weeks ago on the midline, right? And so the midline is going to be 350 acres of reclaiming vacant, abandoned industrial land, turning them into a new business park. And I believe that was coined as the largest industrial redevelopment in the city's history. And it's like, that is true, but that sits within this 1,500-acre district, because we're not just talking about an industrial revival. We are talking about one of the largest, if not the largest, neighborhood revitalization projects in the city's history. And you guys have all heard me say a million times, right? We don't actually have an affordable housing problem in Cleveland. We have an income problem, right? Which is why it is so important that we have jobs at the center of this district, but making it easier for housing to be developed surrounding that major jobs investment. And so ultimately, there are a variety of tools that we have pulled together for this. And there were kind of 4 pieces of legislation that are coming, a few of which are in front of you right now. One of which was number 626-2026, which is the form-based code changes that were brought to DPS and I believe pushed through last week. And then the incentivized permitting, which Ms. Martin O'Toole will talk about shortly, targeted investment through a TIF district, which Ms. Bordeaux-Small will talk about shortly, and then kicking that off with a market pilot project that we have going on. And I can't say this strongly enough. We are harnessing all the tools that we use, right? Like, these are the same tools that we use downtown. We are using them to reinvigorate and bring our neighborhoods back to life. It is not the story that it is one of these things happening. It is the fact that we are doing them all together that I think makes this so impactful. And so, again, part of this that went through moving forward with form-based code in these areas. There is already form-based code for the pilot in St. Clair Superior. This is an expansion of that that has gone through. I think that there are a lot of advantages to form-based code, but again, this is kind of where it landed. This was Ordinance 626-2026 that pushed through. Incidentally, there was an article in the New York Times last week about the things that everyone needs to do to make it easier and faster to move housing forward in the United States. And the number one recommendation they had was easier zoning regulations. The number 2 recommendation they had was faster, easier, more efficient permitting, which is the next piece that Ms. Martin O'Toole will talk about.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm very excited about this piece. I'm very excited about the Housing Innovation District for so many reasons, but for my portion, which is 622-2026, it is waiving permit fees for new construction, 1 to 3 family, 100%, and 50% for larger buildings, so multi-unit buildings. There has been little to almost none new construction in this area in 10 years. So there's been about 2, I believe, private projects, other than CHN doing less than 40 projects in that geography in the last 10 years. So this isn't revenue that we would be, we'd be getting a lot of revenue every year. We hope to see a lot of activity, and we think that having this as an incentive will be very helpful. So it's one piece of all these pieces that I think will come together to create some attraction of people who want to make their home in this neighborhood.
Pattern book real quick.
Oh, yes. So I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the pattern book. So many of you know, and I think we've talked a lot about how we're reforming permitting generally in the city, and we have launched that. We launched it last December, and it's going well. But one of the things that we feel would be fantastic for this and other neighborhoods is creation of a pattern book that has very simple plans that can be used and utilized at no cost to anyone. In addition to the fact that we're encouraging modular housing, we also want to have some stick-built house plans that are available through the county land bank, and through other partners. There will be these options available. So if somebody wanted to build their home in Cleveland, and it takes some of the mystery out of it, if you can get house plans for free, if you know that they'll fit on your lot, if you know that you just have to have a site plan, it makes it much easier to build. And so that is absolutely one of the priorities of this initiative, is creating that pattern book, which I know that Councilwoman House Jones has talked about. We've got to make it easier to build. Absolutely right. And I think this pattern book can go a long way. We're very close to being able to launch that as well.
And I think that's important to note. This is why we call it a housing innovation district. There are a lot of things that we want to pilot and try in here that we can start taking out citywide as we kind of get them working. So next piece up is legislation number 615. But this is going to be held. We are not actually asking you to pass the TIF district. We are still in the process of having conversations with Cleveland Metropolitan School District, but do want you to understand how it's going to impact this part of the neighborhood.
So we've been talking a lot about TIFs, and there are really 2 different types of TIFs, right? There's the project-based TIF, and then there's the TIF district. So the project-based TIFs, folks, it's a tool that folks can use to kind of support the financing of a specific project. It runs with the land, and the proceeds can be used for things like debt services, servicing, et cetera. With a TIF district, the TIF actually covers a geographical region, and those proceeds or the funds from that TIF district can only be used for public infrastructure.
Director McNair, if I could, or Director Bourgeois, I want to make sure we clear up.
Yes.
Because I've been always a student
Yes,
at this,
sir.
and Director Bourgeois cleared this up in that thing that we had a few weeks ago.
Yes.
This is, right now, the only TIF that we passed is the TIF district. We have not passed the project TIF yet until you finish talking with the school district.
So, to Council President, so we did introduce and hear it at DPS committee.
Right.
We are not coming for final passage today
For the project.
for the TIF district.
For the TIF district.
For the TIF district,
Okay.
because we want to have the school compensation district and compensation agreement in place before
Right.
we come back to you in July for
But
final
the
passage.
project-based TIF,
There is no project-based TIF as it relates to the Housing Innovation District. It's a TIF district.
Yes.
okay, all right, okay, please.
But we are
proceed.
not asking for final passage of this, say we will come back in July.
I
after
just wanted to make
finalizing.
sure we cleared it up,
Yes.
because everybody was starting to send me messages, ask me, okay,
Understood.
what's going first? All right,
So again, the dollars that go into this fund that is created is only used for public infrastructure improvements. So things like roads, streetscapes, public parks, right, water and sewer lines, environmental remediation, land acquisition, site prep, demolition, things like that. So kind of covered some of this, but without getting too detailed. What this graphic is, it's intended to really simplify everything. So if you walk it through step by step, the first step is to establish the TIF district, which we have. The next step is to allow projects and businesses to come in for property value to go up, and that value that that raises, right, the increase in value is the increment, right? And so a portion of that will go to the schools once we establish an agreement, and a portion of that will go into this fund that we can then put into the public infrastructure improvements.
And again, just broadly, and we will come back in much more detail in July, right? But when you look at this area, I know it looks very big in a map. It's roughly 1,500 acres. That is about 3.2% of the city's land mass, right? So not as large as it may necessarily appear. What is amazing to me about this is of those 1,500 acres, over 2,800 vacant city land bank lots on that. Right? So of the roughly $601 million of real estate value, $266 million of that is tax exempt because it's all municipally or county owned or things of that nature. And so, the ability to bring these things back on the tax roll through development will almost have like a double impact on us as it comes through. Again, this is one of the areas, one of the reasons why we looked at this geography, said this is the right place to start this. And then, again, we'll talk more about the TIF in July, but I think it is important to note when we started analyzing that geography that I showed there, it is worth less today than it was 3 years ago. It's worth less today than it was 6 years ago. That commercial district is worth less today than it was 15 years ago, which means on an annual basis, not only is the city of Cleveland losing money here, the schools are losing money, the libraries are losing money, the Metro Parks is losing money, right? Like, we have to utilize these tools to not just stop the bleeding, but to get these neighborhoods repositioned for growth and thriving again. And then again, broadly speaking, and we're having conversations with the schools right now, and we'll be throughout the month of June. But I think if you look at what is possible here, and we took it at, again, just getting to a stabilized value, right? Like if you were to look at that 1% number, you could probably, 1% gets you to about $50 million over the course of 30 years. If we can start getting some new development that occurs in this neighborhood, new housing construction, rehab of houses, things of that nature, get to 3%, that's about $90 million that could come into this district. So all things that we'll be coming back to you about, but wanted to make sure that you were aware of. And then, again, as we go through the conversations with the school to establish a TIF district, as we figure out the ways to monetize that, it is important to us to kick this work off, which is why we are looking at a market pilot project, which is going to involve the creation of 20 new single-family homes, both stick-built and modular, in the St. Clair Superior neighborhood around East 67th Street, and in the Huff neighborhood around East 65th Street, 10 houses in each. Both of those areas will see home repairs happening on the streets in which the new housing is going. Looking at 2 new storefront renovation projects on St. Clair Avenue to buttress that pilot. Director Bordeaux-Small, I don't know if you want to cover the market pilot. This is ordinance number 675-2026.
In partnership with the Mandel Foundation, the Land Bank, and the Cleveland Foundation, the city will be contributing $750,000 towards a fund that the Land Bank will be facilitating and administering to help fund the 3 items mentioned by Chief as a part of this market pilot.
And look, lastly, I think I said this when we were finishing up the other day. Guys, I refuse to accept that any of our neighborhood sits in a state of perpetual decline. That is not. I said, I refuse to accept that any of our neighborhood sits in a state of perpetual decline. That is not a reality that I or any of us should be willing to accept. And so I think what you are seeing today is bringing together all the tools that we have, putting them in a geography that frankly I think needs it the most, to try to get these stabilized and moving in the right direction. And I think one of the things that I am most proud about in this work is the level of collaboration that has taken place over the course of time. Through Councilwoman Santana, that we've been talking through on this quite a bit over the last really handful of years, is a new way that we can really invest in our neighborhoods. I know Councilman Harsh has played a big part in the modular housing piece that we're going to be bringing forward in the near future. Councilwoman House Jones and Myrna have played a big role in kind of moving all this forward. So again, this has been a real team effort. Also want to say Taylor Jones from our office, Adam Davenport in city planning has played a lot of work, St. Clair Superior Development Corp. Again, this is a team game, and we are trying to make sure that our neighborhoods are coming first. So again, I think there are 2 pieces of legislation final in front of you, but really excited about the work that we've landed with here.
First and foremost, thank you, Director. And do you have that presentation? Because for some reason I don't see it on here. It's probably on here somewhere, but if you can make sure you send that to us, that'd be great, okay? All right, that'd be great. I do have a couple of people on here. You mentioned already who some of your partners are, but I know Mandel Foundation and former Mayor Michael R. White has been very interested in this area, and I know that former Community Development Director Terry Hamilton Brown, now with St. Clair Superior, have been working closely on this. Who are some of the other partners that are bringing funding towards this project? Because we know we can't have just the private sector.
Yeah. So to the Council President, the Jack Joseph Morton Mandel Foundation and the Cleveland Foundation have each committed $1 million towards the market pilot that is getting some of this work off the ground, that is leveraging the dollars that we are putting into it. Obviously, the Site Readiness for Good Jobs Fund has invested heavily in acquiring the 350 plus acres around the midline, which is going to be a big part of how this stuff moves forward. And then we are having a multitude of conversations with a variety of housing developers and housing rehabbers that we intend on working with to do actual work in the neighborhood.
Okay. I've been following this closely. I'm going to kick this over to some of my colleagues. Councilwoman Santana, this was heard in DPS. Did you have any comments?
I would say we had this is an impactful project, but we had an extensive discussion. And as Chief said, we have been meeting about this project. One of the comments that I will share is that since I've been elected, I realize we have very limited funding, resources, but the need is so great, and so continuing to spread that peanut butter is not impacting our city or moving it forward. So concentrating in an area and hopefully choosing another area after you guys pilot this this program, this project, would be very impactful for our city. So once again, we had discussion, and it's recommended for passage.
And
Thank you.
I did just want to say, thank you, Councilwoman Santana. This is indeed intended to be replicable, right? We need to show that this works. We need to get it up moving, but we do think that this is a model that we can move around the city.
Thank you. And that's one of the reasons why I asked who some of your partners are, because, for example, I know that myself and Councilwoman Gray share an area that's proximate to each other.
Yes.
So it's good to make sure that we have, relationships with the foundations,
Yes.
with some of the banks and other folks like that in order to put together the capital stack to do something similar if we wanted to replicate it. So each community can know the players that you need to start pulling together in order to have this kind of support.
Yes.
Okay? All right. I have Councilman Polinsky, KZ Jones, Starr, then House Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, and to the 3 directors that are here. I appreciate what has been said. Just to get a little bit deep dive, because I'm not on the other committees. The proceeds from the TIF, so that would that be the taxes from the individual homes?
So through the chair to councilperson, it would be any increased revenues that generate from the taxes from all the properties within the district.
Everything,
Yes.
homes, commercial, et cetera. would go into the TIF,
Yes, sir.
and then that would be utilized for,
Public infrastructure improvements.
Okay.
So again, just to be clear, unlike for a real estate project, a
Right.
project-based TIF where it goes
Yes.
back into the project, these dollars can only be utilized on things like roads, streetscapes. One of the big ones that we're talking a lot about are those water sewer line connections.
Yes.
If you've ever seen you like do one of those for an individual home, it can be upwards of $30,000. That gets passed on to the homeowner. That's the type of things that we can use in here, right, which lowers the cost of housing
Okay.
as we move forward.
well, and that takes me just into, that's the question I was going to ask. Because when we did the modulars that I've been working on a long time with Habitat, I could not believe with each one of those taps,
Yeah.
the sewer, and I could not understand for the life of me, we own the water system. The people of Cleveland own the water system. We paid for the water system. I don't understand why we cannot reduce that dollar amount, those taps. Now, what you're telling me, you're going to use the TIF money for the taps,
Yes.
but I don't understand why why water cannot, in the city, cannot absorb that. It's ridiculous what we had to pay for each one of those 10 houses that went up, and they were all in a row, so it wasn't like we're jumping all over. They were 10 modulars in a row with Habitat, and I could not believe what it cost to do those taps. So again, Mr. Chairman, I'd say we need to have, the administration needs to have a discussion with us separate about those taps. It's absurd. So let me go the other direction. I am glad finally to see a plan, what I'd like to think is a plan for the east side, because I didn't think the mayor had a plan for the east side, quite frankly, okay? Outside of closing schools. So my concern is that you just said duplication, because you said also about stop the bleeding on the east side, and the east side is bleeding. And I'm not just talking about over this weekend with the shootings that took place in this city, but I'm talking about the neighborhoods. I'm looking at the northeast side. I'm looking at the southeast side of the city. We are bleeding. We need help. We need a plan of action, and I'm hoping that, and I don't want to have to wait, and our residents don't want to wait for years. So when you say duplication, how soon is the duplication in other neighborhoods? Because, my grandparents my great-grandparents lived on 47th Street, both sets on my mother's side. I'm still a member of the National Slovene Home. I see what's happened down there, and I appreciate my colleagues in all of the areas, my colleagues jumping in and getting involved. And I spoke to Mayor Mike White about the St. Clair Superior. He feels very passionate about it, and I have fond memories of that community as a kid. So I'm glad to see the plan. But I want to see a plan for Collinwood. I want to see a plan for Euclid Park, Euclid Green, the Nottingham neighborhood. I want to see plans for the rest of the east side. And so again, I need to understand what this administration, all three of you are very competent people. It's not about your competency. But the mayor's got to understand the east side is bigger than University Circle. So I want to know what the game plan is as we go forward. What is the game plan for the east side? Again, outside of closing schools in our neighborhood. That's all I see is the game plan. So who would care to comment?
So through the council president to Councilman Polensek, I think one, as you mentioned, this is a part of the plan for the east side, right? And it's a substantial one. And as I said, I think this is not just the largest industrial redevelopment in the city's history. This is likely the largest comprehensive neighborhood revitalization effort in the city's history, and it is looking at a multitude of neighborhoods together. There was extensive work that was done in looking at where's the right place to start with one of these. And look, we finally have our first TIF district in the city of Cleveland downtown, right? First. Columbus, I believe, has 35. I believe Cincinnati has 31, right? I keep saying it's like we've been trying to do this stuff with like two hands tied behind our back, but like you need to find where's the right geography. So we were looking at formerly red line neighborhoods. Again, it was all these confluence of different factors, all the civic investment that's starting to occur around here. This makes the right place to start. I think that we need to show real proof of concept here. We don't want just to have TIF districts all over the city of Cleveland. But I think that when we can show that, like with the right targeted investments, that it does start to turn that tide, that revenues come in, we can start moving and setting these up in the other appropriate places.
Okay, so, just and finally, so Mr. Chairman, to the directors. So Collinwood, Euclid Green, Collinwood, Nottingham, West Park, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Lee Harvard, Mount Pleasant, we're not gonna have to wait 10 years. Is that what you're telling us? We're not gonna have to wait. I need to have some expectations because, you know what? I'm trying to hold a neighborhood together. I am working every day trying to hold the east side, my portion east side that I love. I'm trying to hold it together. And nobody, you have no idea, and nobody has served in this body longer than I have. Every day today is a challenge. I'm fighting absentee landlords that are coming in. They're coming in on the east side like vultures, the LLCs. The abandoned homes, the lack of commitment, the issue with public safety, where the dike is leaking, and all of us, we're trying to do what we have to try to keep our neighbors together. But as I've indicated so many times, we don't hire, we don't fire, we don't deploy, we don't administer. That's the administration. We're looking for help. We're looking for help to stabilize our east side neighborhoods. And I'm passionate about this because I see what's happening. I see what has happened here. So again, I'm hoping, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, to the three directors here, as I've said already, I believe are very competent people. We can't wait 5 years to see something on the rest of the east side. We can't wait that long. There's got to be an east side plan. The mayor has to have an east side plan. Okay, thank you. I'll leave it at that note, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Brian Casey, Councilman Joe Jones, Star, House Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. President, just to piggyback on that, I hope you guys aren't opening up a can of worms here because, you have West Side neighborhoods too. You have Cadell, you have Jefferson Puritas, you have Puritas Longmead, you got Old Brooklyn, parts of, there's other neighborhoods as well that could benefit from this as well. So this is your pilot program, but I hope you're not going to open up a can of worms that you won't be able to close when other council members are coming looking for help for their neighborhood in this type of form or fashion. In regards to 675, Council President, to the director, the 750,000, where's that coming from?
750 is from UDAG. So that's payments from a program that has, it's like repayments from the original HUD program.
Okay. And then on 622, Mr. Chairman, to the director, there's not a sunset on the time frame for this, am I correct?
Through the chair to the councilman, it runs to the end of Mayor Bibb's term.
Okay, so what if he runs for a second term or a third term? Does it continue?
Through the chair to councilman, we'd have to come back. But I think, again, I think we look at this as an incentive to get people off the sidelines and start investing. And if that starts to work, then I think our hope would be that those fees start coming back into the city of Cleveland as additional revenue.
Does it, Mr. Chairman, to the director, does it say that it runs to the end of? Doesn't say in here, does it? Maybe I'm just not seeing it.
Through the chair to the councilman, we believe that it does, but if there's some oversight there, we can certainly adjust it.
I don't see that it.
First
that it-
quick scan, I don't see that.
I don't see that there's a sunset in it at all.
Through the chair to the councilman, that was the intention, if that's an amendment somebody would like to make.
I want to be cautious. This is Councilwoman House Jones' area, and this would be something that I would defer to her and see what her recommendation would be on something like that.
I know she's on the list, so she wants to just mull it and then.
So,
I don't.
Councilwoman House Jones, this is what I would like to do if we could. You know that the councilman has something that he has offered. However, let's hear the comments first, and then if you and Councilwoman House Jones believe that you want to proffer that amendment, then we will put forth that amendment.
We'll have a side discussion and come back on it.
I just want to make sure we
Okay.
give her the courtesy.
No,
of
I
having that
understand.
discussion, Okay?
Mr. Chairman, to the director, then if we're going to assume that this sunsets at the end of, which I just can't imagine that we can't come up with a date instead of saying the end of Mayor Bibb's term, what is the estimated amount that the city will be donating and giving up the fees and the permit?
Through the chair to the councilman, it depends how much activity we see. You know, if we don't see more than the 20 houses that we hope to build, you know, we know that's about $1,500 a piece, so it depends. Will there be multi-unit buildings developed? You know, that could be more money that we're giving for this. But I think, given that we've had so little activity over the past decade, I think it's a worthy investment.
No, Mr. Chairman, to the director, I'm not saying that it's not a worthy investment, but if you listen to Director McNair, the place is going to be, you know, the next, you know, Emerald Isle, right? And are we giving up, which is great if we get the development, but, you know, how much are we giving up in revenue for the city? We're already offering the grant dollars. Now, how much more are we giving in fees and everything?
So, through the chair to Councilman Casey, I think as Director Martin O'Toole stated, over the last 10 years, I think we've only collected about $105,000 in total in residential permit fees in this area. So almost nothing, right? And so I think we view this akin much more to a traditional economic development incentive. We're trying to do everything we can to make it easy for folks to butt in here. And again, the more people that come, the larger that would theoretically be, but we're not actually collecting really any revenue right now.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll have a conversation with Councilwoman House Jones. and
Thank
then
you.
We'll come back.
I have Councilman Joseph Jones, Councilman Richard Starr, and then Councilwoman Stephanie House Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to just jump into this real quick. I'm going to start where we're talking about the finances. But before we get in that, if you showed a map, can you go back to the map? Now, I have a map on mine, but it's all green. But this purple section, is that the one you're going to start on first? Or are you going to start on the green section first?
So, through the chair to Councilman Jones, one, ultimately, this will be one TIF district once it is established. The midline work technically has already started, that is largely in the green section. The pilot projects for housing are occurring in that purple area to the north, right? So
Okay.
East 67th and St. Clair and East 65th Street closer over to League Park and Home.
I see. And so the concept was brought up that we're spending $750 in UDAG. Is there a financial breakdown here? Because I didn't see it. And I don't have this slide. All I saw was $750,000 in the UDAG funds.
So through the chair to Councilman Jones, so the market pilot, right, to build those first new homes, and it will be a combination of both stick-built and modular housing once we kind of select the winner of our modular housing pilot, is leveraging $1 million from the Jack Joseph Morton Mandel Foundation as well as $1 million from the Cleveland Foundation, which is helping to write down the cost of those homes. Obviously, when you start doing work like this, in neighborhoods that have not seen investment, and sometimes getting appraisals is often a challenge. And so knowing that
I got
these
it.
homes are likely only going to be able to sell for roughly $190,000 or so,
I got it.
we need to underwrite those.
I got it. So just make sure we're on the same page. So we're using, at this moment in time, $750 from UDAG funds that actually is a part of previously HUD funds that comes out of I would presume, your department, Mrs. Rose.
That's correct.
And is there any other funds other than the Mandel 1 million and the Cleveland Foundation 1 million that's being added to this?
At this point, Councilman Judd, the answer is no, other than the fact that we are committed to doing 2 storefront renovation program projects on St. Clair Avenue through normal departmental funds.
Do we have a scope of services?
I'm sorry, can you
Do we
clarify?
have a ideal or a concept of how many houses we're going to actually be working on? Do we have those locations already? I saw the 20 and the 10. Do we know exactly where they're located already? We've identified that entire, or we're looking to identify?
So through the chair to the councilman, the East 67th Street Market Pilot at St. Clair Avenue is further along. We have identified 10 city land bank lots for which will be the places for new construction that goes on there. We are working with some partners that are kind of assessing the street for some of those home repair projects that go on. Again, the East 65th Street in Huff is a little further behind. We know the street, we have the targeted lots, but we've not formalized those yet.
Okay. So then, just make sure I'm on the same page. So this is the first time something like this is actually happening in the East Side neighborhood where you're actually creating a TIF?
Through the chair to Councilman Jones, that is correct.
I see. And then, what's your projection on how much this TIF is going to produce in that area?
So through the chair to Councilman Jones, you can see on this slide here, right? So again, if this would if you did nothing, roughly $40 million over the course of 30 years, right? And so we look at that $50 million-ish is kind of the low end, right? That is a little north of stabilization. I believe Julie Lamb from Allegro, when she's doing that, she goes, this is kind of a public service announcement for compounding interest, right? But we're able to take these dollars and reinvest them back in the neighborhood. But you can start to see what this looks like if we gain some traction. And again, because most of these are vacant land that the city of Cleveland owns, you kind of get that double impact when they come in. So at 3%, that could be worth upwards of $90 million. This is shown as if the schools are 100% of their income, right? So this is including all schools getting their share in here. But you can see how much higher that gets depending on what comes in. So again, we're not asking for passage of the TIF district today. We want to finalize our conversations with the school district that come back here. And then even after that's enacted, I think there's a separate conversation we have with the body on how we monetize these dollars to bring it forward to start making some of those targeted infrastructure investments.
Well, I think that, one of the things is when we put this project down here downtown, there was a shifting of the tax base in the city of Cleveland where some people had to pay more in their taxes. And so what would be the impact of creating this? Because the taxes that was created and increased in my neighborhood and in eastern neighborhoods were so, we were so shell-shocked by the increase that we had never seen anything quite like it in the last 100 years, where we've seen an increase by 80%, and some cases 100% increase in our taxes. So explain to us, because it was explained to me when I sat at the table with the taxation people, how my neighborhood was hit hardest. So explain to me how this is going to impact the Lee Harbor neighborhood.
So through the chair to Councilman Jones, I will say, one, I fully appreciate and understand. I live in Councilwoman Gray's ward. My home doubled in value in the last triennial appraisal, right? And I think it is important to note that the triennial appraisal that the county does is unrelated to the work that we do. As I showed you on this other slide, I think that this is a unique geography in the fact that it is actually losing money today. It is losing money for the city, all our partners. It is the homes that are in there are losing value on an annualized basis, right? And so I think it is impossible to sit here and say that if we're making civic investments that surround these, if people are constructing new homes or fixing up homes, that there won't be some increase in property values, which does translate to taxes. And I think that is why it is so critical that we work with residents in these neighborhoods as we go through it. But it's also about building wealth for people.
I get that. So, but the question is still germane. The issue is that our people had to, unfortunately, pay higher taxes because of the program that we put downtown in the same way that we're looking, when we created those districts down here, I sat down with the taxation people. So, and the taxation people told me someone had to pay the price. And that's exactly the wording that was used. And so what I'm sharing with you right now, it may be a eye-opener for you, and I don't mind having an opportunity to sit down and having a conversation with you concerning it. But my concern right now is if we put this TIF in place in this area, will that increase the taxes of the citizens that I represent in the first ward? And I know your answer is going to probably be no, or you don't know, or you're not sure, or you may say it's not going to be the case. But what I'm suggesting, Mr. Chairman, to the director, Tom McNair, is that we had an increase. And that increase was so large that we had never seen anything quite like it in 100 years. And so what I'm sharing with you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. McNair, have you had a chance to talk to the people in the county to see what and how this would potentially impact
Chief
their
McNair.
taxation moving forward?
Through the chair to Councilman Jones, my professional opinion is that no. Placing something on this area should not impact your residents. And further, I would say that as this area is actually losing money on an annualized basis, it means that every single one of you are utilizing your dollars to help support it, right? When we had that conversation at Council Caucus the other day, and we actually showed downtown Cleveland and how downtown Cleveland is responsible for nearly 40% of the city of Cleveland's income taxes, with only 2.37% of the land value, but nearly 20% of the property taxes come from downtown. Downtown helps subsidize the rest of the city. In a similar fashion, downtown is certainly subsidizing these three neighborhoods, as are many of your other places, right? I know that we've talked about West Park is another one that actually disproportionately brings in more than it gives out. So my answer is no. This should not only not impact your residents in a negative way, it should support them in the long term.
So then what is the
Councilman,
breakdown?
this is the wrap-up after this.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have the financials, the projections. I see some of this here. You have stated that there's $1 million from the Mandel Foundation, $1 million from the Cleveland Foundation, and $750 in UDAC. What is that breakdown in terms of the subsidization of these 20 homes?
So
Is that, go ahead, I'm sorry.
through the chair to Councilman Jones, we do have that information. Like I said, the St. Clair Superior pilot is a little further along as we go through that. I think when you look at the totality of the dollars, and the Cuyahoga County Land Bank is investing a little bit in that as well. They'll be the fiscal agent for these funds. I think it comes to around $160,000 a home that they're writing those down.
So we're subsidizing $160,000 per house.
So through the chair to Councilman Jones, that is accurate. And what we are trying to do is start a market in a place where one does not currently exist.
No further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I have Councilman Starr, then Councilman Conwell, then Councilwoman House Jones to wrap us up. And I'm putting everybody today, just so that you're aware, because we have so many pieces of legislation and these have been heard in committees already, we are keeping a 10-minute clock on everybody, so just so everyone knows. Councilman Richard Starr.
Thank you, Council President. Just for the standpoint of this ordinance, when we do create this piece of legislation and we determine who's the sponsors, how do we figure out who's being sponsors on these different ordinances, such as 622, to anybody at the table that can answer?
To determine who's on the ordinance or who's sponsoring?
Yes.
Usually us on our side, and it usually gets the chair who is actually hearing it, then the council president, then whose ever ward is impacted by the piece of legislation is what we generally do.
Yes, I just wanted to bring that as a point of clarity, because when you see how we're talking about 622, it does stretch from St. Clair all the way to Opportunity Corridor, which encompasses a large portion of roughly 300 or 700 acres of undeveloped land in Ward 5, and I was not added as a sponsor, and I just wanted to see what the context of how that actually gets selected, because I'm not added as a sponsor for this, and every time something come up, I always gotta remind is almost seeming as if it's being punitive towards me. And I just wanted to make sure I asked that for clarity, because I hate to have to always bring up this type of stuff. When I know I met with the administration and we talked back in April, I think April 10th, we had a meeting and we discussed how this was going to come up before it come to us, and not my ward and my name not being added is just a little slighted. So I definitely will put a request to be added to ordinance number 622, seeing that it is affecting Ward 5, and I've been meeting with the administration to discuss that, Council President.
And definitely, so we could add Councilman Stars, just for form, the reason that this might have happened, just to give you backup, is that your TIF district, and this is actually expanding the TIF district that you have into Ward 8. So most of the TIF district is a TIF district that you already have with the midline, a lot of the midline.
So, thank you, Council President.
So bottom line is,
Yeah.
make sure that Councilman Stars should be added to this.
Yep,
okay?
and then to that point, the midline is mainly just an opportunity for us to create the priority investment area, utilizing dollars from downstate for brownfield cleanup to just signal to developers that we're looking for that area to actually be the point where we would like people to do some development and working through the administration and site readiness to be able to do those things. Now, the TIF district is one that's going to expand all from my area up to Ward 8. So the TIF
Right.
district would be something that is different. And I believe through our meeting I had on April 10th, there's going to be 3 parts of legislation that is going to come before the body to be able to implement the actual TIF district to allow us to do those different things that we are talking about, from the north zone, the south zone, as well as to Opportunity Corridor. I just wanted to make sure that's good, and I appreciate you, Council President. And then my question would be, little bit something that I think Councilman Jones was getting on. When you talk about how we use TIF districts, my number one question is, does this actual TIF process hurt the actual current homeowners who may be the ones who have to come up with the mortgages and pay their different taxes as opposed to new areas? How does it really affect those current homeowners who oftentimes are maybe seniors or a little bit older on a fixed income? How does TIF district really affect those, through the chair to anyone at the table, just to see how we touch bases on this, because we want to make sure we're utilizing this tool correctly and not just hurting individuals that are already currently homeowners. So from that standpoint, how does this actually affect those current homeowners of today, through the chair?
So through the chair to Councilman Starr, again, we will be back in likely July for the passage of the TIF district, and we can have a much more in-depth conversation, though, again, I would say broadly, we are looking at, these do not go into individual real estate, right? These go back into public infrastructure in the neighborhoods for which they come from, right, which is different. And again, as we look at this area today, many of those homeowners are losing value on their homes on an annualized basis, right? It is the exact opposite of wealth building. It is actually sucking wealth from these families. And, when we kicked this off last week, Taylor Jones, who's here, actually told a pretty, I hate to say this, it's like she told a pretty common story about her family living in the city of Cleveland over the course of generations and how they moved out to Cleveland Heights because they finally had homes that were no longer worth anything, that it was no longer a place that their family felt that it was generating value for them, right? And this is an opportunity to change that. And so these are taking the revenues that come in and reinvesting them in the neighborhood where that growth is happening, so that those residents can actually benefit from it, right?
Yep, and then from that standpoint, one of the things I definitely was looking at on the Cuyahoga County website, just trying to get a total number of areas where we utilize TIF districts to help development. Do we have any data that we can share with the council regarding how TIF districts have been used in other areas to be able to attract development? Do we have that through the chair? If that could be sent over to the council?
So through the chair to Councilman Starr, I'm not sure that we can find some information for you on that.
Yep, I would love if you could work on pulling that type of data. That'd be helpful. And then obviously from the standpoint, I look at it from a bird's eye view of understanding how we've had areas in the city of Cleveland who oftentimes didn't see investment, and then you look up 15 years later, they have developed those areas, and just looking from different financial tools under our supervision or our authority that we have with the administration, from tax abatement, things like that, is those has tax abatement or other financial tools been used that you could talk about that has helped other areas that did not have investments? And the reason why I'm asking that is because I remember when my aunt used to stay in West 25th projects, right, when I was growing up, and I remember there was a lot of vacant land. Now you fast forward, that's probably when I was about 10, 12 years old. Now you fast forward 25 plus years later, now you see a lot of investment over in those areas around that city, around the city. How was that actually done in 25-year time frame for that to be able to do when you got mixed and private investors to come into that area and invest? What was some of the main tools that was given to allow those individuals and developers to signal them to want to develop in that area? Is this some of the things that you could speak on? And if so, how can we use some of those tools to do an area similar to these almost roughly 2,300 acres of undeveloped land?
So through the chair to Councilman Starr, one, residential tax abatement is an as-of-right tool in the city of Cleveland that's been available for some time, right? And in these neighborhoods, that's 100% residential tax abatement for a period of 15 years, and yet we still haven't seen investment, which again is why we are trying to bring all the tools together as a way that can help incentivize new growth in here, but really trying to make sure that it works for the people that are here today. And I think that is the importance of establishing something like a TIF district that enables us to invest in infrastructure in here in a way that works. And I would say, you go back to the slide. All right, which one is it? There's $500 million of civic investments that are surrounding this geography, right? And on top of it, we're doing this 350 acres of new geography. Like, the reality is that changes are coming to these neighborhoods. We can just sit back and watch what happens to it, or we can try to shape it. And so to us, I think it's trying to bring these tools together so that we can shape it in a way that works for the people that are here. And again, we talk about it as an innovation district within this kind of purple and green geographies. How can we make it work? And so simultaneously, you have tools that are incentivizing people to come in and grow. But like, how do we also do things like a land trust, which preserves affordability into perpetuity, right? Like, there's a lot of things that we can do in conjunction with each other that can help move this forward in a way that we feel is equitable. And again, I'm not sure that we have ever done anything this comprehensive before, certainly not that I've seen, because in the center of it, we are placing jobs, because Clevelanders need jobs. Clevelanders need high-quality jobs to afford the housing that they can get into. The folks that are here today need to find ways that we can help them preserve affordability, but we also need to increase the growth of the residents, right? This is why it's losing residents. We have 50% vacant land. No one is benefiting from that. Like, putting a glass cap on disinvestment is a bad strategy for people's livelihoods.
Yep, and I'll wrap up, Council President. And also from the standpoint from our meeting we had in April, we spoke about getting rid of permitting fees and things like that, as well as just making sure we're very inclusive on the actual development that we want to see in these areas. I look forward to just working. I definitely will put a request, if I possibly can, get this team or this presentation to be done at a community meeting in Ward 5, because obviously residents are going to see what is going on here today at this table, for us to be able to talk more in depth of what we're trying to do from the midline investment, as well as this potential TIF district over in this area. So I'll reach out to the team to see if we can get you possibly on our July meeting in the neighborhood. Thank you, and I yield, Council President.
Thank you. Councilman Kevin Conwell.
Thank you very much. I am so happy about this piece. It's in Ward 5 as well as Ward 8. That's correct, right? And congratulations to my colleagues. It's an emergency ordinance that we're using to authorize the Director of Building and Housing to waive construction permitting fees for one family or three family residential. And I'll tell you why I'm reading this. Construction in the newly defined East Side TIF target income financing district, and authorizing a 50% reduction of construction permitting fees for larger or new multi-family or mixed-use residential construction in the same designated area. Here's my issue. I like it, I love it, but you know what, Chief? You gotta manage it. We can pass this piece here. I've stopped by your office. I've stopped by the building and housing director's office. This is what developers don't like. They'll see this, but when they can't get their permits or get the things that they need on time, you're causing time constraints. And when you cause the time constraints, you're messing around with their quality constraints as well as cost constraints. So you might say, here's the money right here, Council President, but if we can't get this moved through, it's like you're not giving them any money. Let's say you give them $100,000, but by you're not executing and giving them the permits when it's right for them to have it in a construction project, and you cause time constraints, they don't want to do it. They'll walk away. So you have to manage this TIF to make sure that it benefit the cost. Because if you don't, why should I bother with you? So here's my question. Are we going to manage the TIF right so that developers will feel comfortable with coming in here so that they can make money and it will not lose money that will bleed over to time, cost, and quality, those triple constraints that we create in the city of Cleveland. That's why they go to the suburbs.
So through the chair to Councilman Conwell, one, I think a couple of different things. What this legislation is doing, I think, is trying to remove barriers by eliminating fees that frankly we're not even really collecting right now because we're not seeing that type of investment. I think what you're referring to more is the work
Because
that,
they don't want to come because of
so
that.
the work that Director Martin O'Toole has been doing in coordination with Director Mersman in city planning on overhauling the permitting system to make it easier. This is also why we're talking about things in this as an innovation district that we're starting to try. Things like that pattern book where we're going to pre-approve a few home designs of people that we know are doing work here so
Right.
that it can just be like, here's the lot you want, here's your permit. And I don't know, Director Martin O'Toole, there's anything
And let me
else.
say this too. It takes too long to get the lots. That's why the lots are still open and available for people. Because when it take too long, that time constraints bleed into cost. And remember that.
Through the chair to the councilman, I totally hear you. You know, we've been working over the past 2 years to reform the construction permitting process, and I think as it pertains to this housing innovation district, there's multi-pieces that come together to create the speed with which you're speaking of. One is the zoning reform, the ability to speed things through. So a lot of times, you know, permits are held up because they have to get variances and all of these things that take months to do. Without that, it's going to speed it up. We've also integrated our permit portal, and we're continuing to iterate and make the construction permitting system faster in the city. And I think looking at modular housing, looking at this pattern book and being able to pick your pattern. Also, the work that's been going on in the Department of Development to relocate our land bank and completely reform the way that that works, hiring a director of real estate strategy.
They're still not executing, Director.
Yeah, it's
Councilman,
all
through the chair, if
happening.
we
Through the
could.
chair, through the chair. I'm not upset with you.
Sure.
I'm just telling you what I see. And the chief knows they're still not executing. So you give me this TIF and you're not executing, that's not good.
I'll let Chief.
And I'm not upset with you, I'm just telling you what I see. Because, Council President, I personally visit their offices, even unannounced, because I write down my dependencies. I know this, if this project is not moving here, then it's going to cause my developers constraints and they'll walk away. Isn't that true? Because I visit you unannounced.
Through the chair to the councilman, since the land bank has moved over to the Department of Development, the team has worked through, I think at this point, 87% of the backlog, which, you know, was part of, I think, why things were kind of slow to move. And then the other thing that the team is working on is digitizing the process. I think that both those things alone, once the land bank reopens, will allow for that process to move a lot faster and more efficiently.
Because it's the process that would not just the TIF, it's the process that would benefit the entire city. If we control those time constraints that I'm talking about, then the developers will be able, because cost, sometimes your resources and your product will cost more money, so I do it. And it will also affect their quality. So this TIF is beautiful if it's managed right. You know, I stop by and talk with you guys about that a lot, through the chair.
Thank you.
And Director, I meant no. All right, cool beans.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. All right, to close us out, Councilwoman House Jones.
Thank you. Through the chair, to the directors that are here, good morning. Just a couple of things. I know we're talking about 622, which is the permitting phase reduction. 626, no, we're not talking about 626.
675 and 622.
Okay, just those two, 622 and 675. Right, okay. I believe like context is really important when we talk about the amount of vacant lots that we have in the city of Cleveland. And this isn't our entireties of wards, but these are just a portion of our wards.
Yep.
And just a portion of our wards, you're talking about in excess of 10% of vacant lots just in the city of Cleveland that are concentrated in an area that has had disinvestment for literally a generation. When we look at the household income in these three neighborhoods in particular, Central is around $24,000. In Huff, it's around $37,000. In St. Clair Superior, I believe it's like $42,000. And so we have an attraction problem. And in order to be able to attract people back to the city of Cleveland, we have to be able to offer quality projects and quality products in a comprehensive manner. And so as we're talking about the Housing Innovation District, one of the things, I am just a person who have transitioned here in this space to know we have to do different things and not just haphazardly, but thinking about things in a comprehensive way so that these numbers that we are talking about, household income, we know that these are the numbers, but we have to have a plan to increase it, right? The increase of how are we connecting people to real opportunities. You know, it's going to be a disservice if 10 years from now and the numbers are still the same. We are failing. We are failing. We cannot, and we don't have the luxury to continue to manage poverty in the way that we have been able to.
Yep.
We have to connect to real opportunity to increase household income, to truly build generational wealth. And will this be the solution? I don't know. But I do know what we currently are doing is not working. And so that's one of the reasons why my office has been a partner. And so through that, through the chair to the team, how long have we been having, you know, the conversations and meetings regarding this initiative?
Through the chair to Councilwoman, I think in various iterations, a couple of years.
A couple of years. And through the chair to the team here, how long has my office been working with you all as far as this is going?
So through the chair to Councilwoman, I believe the entirety of that time.
The entirety of this time. Okay. So I'm glad you brought this up. You know, I would be remiss, I would really be remiss if I didn't talk about my thorough disappointment and the lack of partnership when it came to the rollout and the announcement last week when it came to the Housing Innovation District.
Repeat that, Councilwoman.
I said I would be remiss if I did not talk about my thorough disappointment in the administration's rollout of the Housing Innovation District. To have, and again, I just wanted to be clear, for the entirety of this time, as we've been talking about it, we've been talking to partners, and I'm not just talking about haphazardly. In particularly, Myrna Craig in my office has been going to these meetings literally in excess for 2 years. And so to get an announcement that your team is rolling out the Housing Innovation District in Ward 8 and not to even have the decency to invite my office is a form of direct disrespect. And it took everything in me not to say, you know what, since y'all can do it on your own, to pull the legislation. But I know this work is bigger than me and my feelings. I have not only written to the mayor and writing about expectations and my values, I have not only talked to him just 2 weeks ago. And for you all to do what you all did last week, like I said, I'm thoroughly disappointed. And as I've had conversations with the council president, if you do it again, it will be a very different, not even conversation, it will be a different action. Any legislation that you put forth, I will guarantee you that I will work to ensure that you'll do it on your own. Because I know I have shown that I am a good partner. I know that. I do things to just work to move things forward, even against sometimes the ire to my colleagues for this administration. And for the way that you have treated me and the residents who live in St. Clair Superior and Huff and Ward 8 and Central, it is shameful. Absolutely shameful. You all need to do better. From the mayor to each of you all. And I mean that. I mean that. Because I am tired of talking. It is absolutely embarrassing to be out in the community where people expect you to show up for them and you can't tell them to show up because the partner you thought you had didn't even have the basic decency to invite you. And that has been going on for 4.5 years. This is good work, Council, but the partner and the lack of the partner that we have, you all need to stop it. And I will say more about it this evening directly to the mayor. And I'm not going to say it anymore.
I'm glad y'all caught her today and not Thursday. It was so I think we are clear on that, but yes, you should always make sure that the council person and the council person's who area that is always engaged. So thank you, Councilwoman. I would like to do one thing. First of all, ordinance number 622-2026 and 675-2026.
We have an amendment.
Oh, we do have an amendment, Councilman Brian Casey.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring forth an amendment for 622, 2026. We're going to renumber section 7 to section 8 and have new section 7 read, the provision of this ordinance shall be of no enforce and effect as of January 1st, 2032, unless reauthorized by council.
Attorney, do you have that? So the attorney does have the amendment. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Michael Polinsky has seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilman Christopher Harsh on the discussion.
Thank you. Through the chair to the councilman, is the spirit to sunset the TIF district? Or, I'm sorry, what is the sunset
The TIF
for?
district is not before us. This is to sunset the fees for the permitting.
Permitting
in the
fees for that area.
The reduced permitting fees for
Correct.
the innovation district, to sunset that in 3032
Correct.
or 2032, and we can revisit as we get closer.
Correct.
Thank you. Just-
Councilman Joe Jones on the discussion.
On the discussion in terms of the fees. So I talked about that earlier. So what are we talking about in terms of the fees? How much are the fees?
Basically, what the amendment is on the table that Councilman Casey is discussing and has been seconded is that the amendment fees and all of the schedules that they have in that legislation will sunset, which means it would end in 2032. That is what is on the table right now.
And is that just for Mr. Chairman, for clarification, what's in all of what we've seen? Because we don't
Just
have a full
pertaining
picture.
to this area.
Right.
So
So there's-
strictly
there's-
pertaining to the area that's before us.
Which
right.
includes both wards.
Which includes the St. Clair Superior neighborhoods and that area that was highlighted in that map.
Which is a part of Richard Starr's neighborhood as
It's
well.
in both neighborhoods,
I
which
see.
is
So I just
5 and
want to
8.
get a grasp of it right fast. So what are we talking about? Because I've asked the question, because one of the things that, Mr. Chairman, it perplexes me is when we're bringing legislation before the table and we don't have all the numbers. So what if we had to add a fee on one house, what are we talking about in terms of fees? Gives me a better idea, because then I can reach my own numbers by calculating the fees.
So
of just the
Director,
first 20.
this morning, or earlier, you gave us a number. Did you
Mm-hmm.
want to repeat or reiterate that number?
Sure, through the chair to the councilman, approximately $1,500.
Per house.
Yes.
I see. No further questions.
Thank you. All right, is there any other discussion on the amendment? Councilman Conwell, discussion on the amendment.
I'm going to stay on the amendment, but to the chair, to the director, when you come back to us, are you talking, it's 5 years?
Right.
So, but they're not going to wait until 5 years. I just want to
No,
have a
they're
point
not.
of clarity.
They're not waiting until 5 years. All this amendment is doing is saying if this specific area that we're trying to expand
Mm-hmm.
after 2032 would have to come back for council. That's all this is stating.
Well,
Just regarding the fees.
Just
and-
regarding the fees.
regarding the fees.
So they're still going to give reports, updates. You can still make sure that they're on
Okay.
schedule, managing the TIF and everything else. That's all it is.
Cool beans, I'm good.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Therefore, 622 as amended, 622-26 as amended stands approved, as well as ordinance number 675-2026 as approved stands approved. As a reminder, please make sure that Councilman Starr's name is on both pieces of legislation. Director, I would like to ask something that I think is very important. And you continue to talk about the distribution of the tax dollars in the city of Cleveland. Like downtown is approximately 40. I anticipate University Circle represents a certain amount. Do you have that broken down per SPA, ward, or wherever? Because I'm going somewhere with both of those. How do we actually raise revenue in the city? And do you have like a pie chart to show where those dollars come from or anything else? I think that'd be a helpful tool for this council to have.
Yep. Through Council President, largely I've been getting those through conversation, combination of planning. I keep asking like, what is the rough size of these geographies? And then trying to work with the Department of Finance to kind of get estimates based on this.
Is it possible that we can get any of that information? I think that would be helpful for this council to have.
I will work with Chief Barrett and see if we can figure
Okay.
something out. Might take a minute.
Thank you. I'll follow up with you on that. And the policy team will,
Yep.
if they can note that, that's something we would love to follow up with you on. The other thing that I would love to get, I don't know if you have this via ward, but it'd be good to show neighborhood investment. Because we try very hard, and I think Councilwoman Santana's point earlier about trying to be very strategic, that we can't spread peanut butter everywhere.
Yep.
I would love if all 15 wards can all have the same amount of investment, but we know that there are strengths and weaknesses in every ward. And it'd be good to show what kind of investment from the public, and then also where we need to encourage more private investment. Because we know that in a lot of these areas, the market just won't go into those areas, which is why we're trying to jumpstart the St. Clair Superior area, because evidently the market has ignored that area for some reason, for some time. Just like the southeast and northeast and some other areas, northwest and other areas. But I just think it'd be good to show where we kind of make strategic investments so that people can actually understand that even if you might get more housing investment here, you might get more road investment here. because I think sometimes everybody mixes up equality and equity. They're two different things. So I would love to work with your team. I know that we've been really trying to educate council on how we move money in the city. So it'd be good to have that conversation. Okay? Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All right. I'll move to next piece, which is 368-2026 as amended. This is by council members Bishop, Santana, Polincic, Hudson, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the mayor and the commissioner of purchases and supplies to purchase property for the construction of a new Cleveland of Division Fire Station number 23 located at 122 Madison Avenue for the Department of Public Safety. And the amendment states, there is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, strike Section 3 in its entirety and insert the following. Section 3, that the consideration to be paid for this property shall be up to $1,025,000. No, I'm sorry, $1,025,000, which includes the purchase price paid by Shaker Madison LLC for real and personal property of $725,000 plus up to an additional $300,000, provided Shaker Madison LLC provides documentation of additional costs that could be reasonably considered as part of the property's fair market value. This is dated 5/29/26 and is signed by Sierra Lipscomb, Assistant Director of Law. I want to make this clear to everyone, if we could. This is not the eminent domain step that originally a lot of people had concerns about. This is authorizing the administration and the commissioner, as well as the director of capital projects, to make an offer to Shaker Madison. Once they make an offer, we hope that they will negotiate. I know that there's a piece of legislation on the table that will potentially, discuss if this council would like to consider moving forward with any other kind of legislation regarding this property. I just want to make this clear. If we could, hold on for 1 second, if we could, this is just, once again, giving the administration the ability to make an offer. What we did is we made an amendment in order to give the original offer that was on the table pending the documentation that Capital Projects has requested from the developer. I want to make this clear. Nobody on this council has ever said we do not want a fire station, and we understand the priority of a fire station. But everybody on this council has concerns about is always making sure that there is fairness. Fairness in the process, fairness in the price, and fairness to a group of people who actually have the right to purchase property, fix property, and get a tenant if they're available. So I want to make this clear that the trepidation that many of the people on this council had is not because we do not support a new fire station that we believe that the people in that neighborhood deserve and that they've been advocating for. And I've listened intently to both of my colleagues who represent that area. I understand the sensitivities around this, but I want to make it clear this council is not against a fire station. This council just wants to promote fairness and equity. We very rarely use, if at all, the eminent domain process. That is something we take very serious and something that we do not use expeditiously because we have several hundred derelict properties that could be used for better use throughout the city of Cleveland. And we want to be careful to not go into precedent. We want to be careful to not be overreaching. And we want to make sure that there is a fair process for the administration to negotiate with these owners a fair price. I know that I have a representative, Timothy Wiles Jr. from the Director of Development for Shaker Madison LLC. I have allowed if he would want to make public comment before I hear from the administration. And once again, this is only the first part of giving the administration the opportunity to negotiate a price for that property. Mr.
Chairman.
Wiles, you have the floor.
What ordinance is it?
368-2026 as amended.
Yes, I would just like to say that,
Please talk to the microphone, sir.
yes, I would just like to say that the proposal is premised on something that we believe is false. If you look at the
I
underlying...
can't hear, Mr. Chairman.
If you look at the underlying appraisal that was obtained, it literally has the words in it, this is not to be relied upon by any third party for any purpose whatsoever. So the notion that we're going to be made an offer based on what somebody believes we paid or some additional amount is not reasonable, and it's not premised on the law. It's not based on fair market value. There needs to be a fair market value determination, and the appraisal that was provided to council does not do that. It says right in it that it does not do that. We provided an independent third-party appraisal that does show the fair market value. So I believe if you pass this legislation today, that's fine, and I appreciate your prefatory remarks that this is not about eminent domain, that this is just about allowing an offer to be made, but we've had a preliminary meeting at our request, and we've explained what the value of the property is based on its current zoning and its intended use, and the options available that we have to us already that have been known since October of 2025. And it appears to us that there's an attempt to artificially suppress the value of this property. It was held up in landmarks since October of 2025 without any real explanation. So I sent correspondence to everybody on council on March 28th, and I put all these concerns in there. I want to make sure everybody has that, everybody understands that that's where we are coming from, that we have no problem negotiating in good faith. We have tried to do that, but it needs to be premised on fair market value, and what's been provided so far is not reflective of that.
Thank you, sir. And I just want to make it clear, with the exception of maybe one experienced in real estate, want to make it clear that this council is not the negotiating team. The negotiating team will be MOCAP, and we're just simply authorizing, giving the opportunity for this to happen. There is a school of thought that the only way that this will be settled is in court. That's going to be up to the two parties. But the step that we're making today is just to give the allocation of dollars to start the negotiations. And then if the MOCAP comes back and you guys negotiate in fair market value, then they will come back and we'll make whatever amendments and we'll go from there. The hope is always for the parties to settle. I will tell you, in researching several other of these kind of issues, legal fees and other things start to tick up. When we look at the properties that were obtained for Irishtown Bend, even though that was done through, I believe, the Cleveland Metro Parks as well as the Port Authority, it still ended up in a significant amount of fees that the parties, the public entities, had to pay for that owner, and it ended up in a significant amount of land swaps that many of us had to accommodate across the city. So one of the things that we want to do is just make sure that we're watching the taxpayers' dollars, but we also want to make sure that that anybody who buys property in the city of Cleveland is fair. So, Mr. Wiles, thank you so much, and thank you for your correspondence. If anybody didn't get it, we'll make sure that we follow up to make sure that everybody has it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, MOCAP, did you want to have anything else to say?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, thank you for hearing this piece of legislation and splitting the acquisition from eminent domain, because really the first step is authorization from council to negotiate and have the authorization to make that offer. And if we come to agreement to actually acquire the property from the property owner, this legislation will allow us to do that, so we appreciate you hearing it today. I don't need to go into the reason why we need a new fire station. We have Mark here to talk about any details that council may need, but in the interest of time, we'll just say that yes, we do have the need for a fire station. This is, as we've determined, the best location for that fire station, And, you know, quite honestly, if we can't come to agreement, if we don't have eminent domain authority, we'll just have to think about some other way to accommodate that need. I have heard others say that we don't have the money currently allocated for the construction of the fire station. If folks look at the 5-year capital plan, we do have $1 million in 2029 for the design of either this fire station or Fire Station 24. And then in 2030, we have the construction money. Now, if we come to agreement with the property owner sooner, then we adjust the capital plan as we move forward to move up those dollars. But at this point, we assume that 2029 would really be the first that we would be able to start the process towards designing and construction of the fire station. I would like to say I appreciate what the property owner's attorney said to us today, but also emphasize what you said, that we, the administration, have to negotiate this deal. That correspondence was only sent to City Council, so in the future we hope that correspondence is directed back to the administration. We thank Councilman Shaw for forwarding that to us. We did receive it on Thursday, but it was through Councilman Shaw and not through the property owner. That being said, though, we do look forward to negotiating with the property owner, seeing what costs they can document, working through the legal process to negotiate and document costs. It's very common to have 2 separate appraisals for the same property. And so what that process usually looks like is a review of both appraisals, typically providing those appraisal reports to the other appraiser, receiving comments, and using that as the basis for negotiations. So we welcome that process. We're hopeful that this passes today so that we can start that process with the authority from City Council to enter into a deal with the property owner if we can come to that deal.
Thank you.
Yes.
Before I go to the council members on record in that area, I do want to make sure that I clarify something. So you have the money allocated for design for 2029 and for construction in 2030.
Correct.
So if this goes to the courts, that could actually be pushed back even further.
Mr. Chairman, so we believe that if it goes through the courts, it could be about an 18-month process. It could be longer, it could be shorter.
To even get settled.
Yes, and so that's why the 2029 date was in there, so that we have some of this year, some of next year, even into 2029. But what we don't want to have happen is bond funds just sitting there not being spent.
The reason that I'm asking is because doesn't it seem like with all of the math and the numbers that we have looked at, that it would be cheaper just to negotiate as opposed, and it'd be more expeditious to get a fire station if a reasonable negotiation was just to take place in order to move forward, and all parties do not have to pay legal fees, wait for the courts for potentially 18 months to 2 years. And my colleagues who have been advocating for a fire station, even though I think they're trying to make sure they take the right steps, this still can potentially be a long ways away, which means we're still worried about those workers living in those conditions. We're still worried about getting a new fire station, which I understand has more calls than Lakewood Avenue. My guess what I'm saying is, how can we ensure them and expedite that a fire station will go up a lot faster and not be held up because of legalities and other things like that?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with you 100%. First of all, eminent domain is a heavy tool, and I've been using that tool sparingly over my entire career, whether it was at RTA or here at the city. And in my experience, that's not the first place you look to try to acquire property. It is something that's used when there are either few options or no other options for the public improvement you're trying to build. Currently, we don't have an next best option for this fire station, so that's why we're trying to pursue negotiations. But 100%, we would like to negotiate this while we continue to look at other sites as well. Our goal is to negotiate this property and not take it through eminent domain.
Thank you. All right, did the council members on record want to close or open? Yes. Close or open?
I'll let Councilmember Hudson, if she wants to open, I can close.
Okay, Councilwoman Nikki Hudson.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Through the chair to Mr. DeRosa, when did the negotiations with the property owners, when did those begin?
Through the chair to Councilwoman Hudson, roughly in the fall of 2025.
In the fall of 2025? Was an offer made to the property owners earlier in 2025?
Yes, I'm sorry, I apologize. That's when we looked, so we made an offer to the property owners in February of 2025. So yes, I'm sorry, I misstated. We started looking at what documentation we might have to make an offer in fall of 2024. We did make an offer in February of 2025. Nothing really happened until early this year when we had our appraisal updated and made another offer.
Okay. And through the chair, did the property owners respond to that initial offer?
They did not.
Were any counters made? I mean, could we, say that the negotiating process began, well over a year ago?
Through the chair, that would be fair to say, and we haven't, until recently, received a counteroffer.
Okay, and through the chair, what would be the most recent counteroffer?
That would be through the chair a verbal counteroffer that we received during a meeting with the owners a couple weeks ago.
And what was that amount?
$2 million.
$2 million. And through the chair, what did the property owners pay for this property?
Through the chair, county records reflect that the purchase price for the real estate was $575,000. The property owner did show us some documentation that there may have been additional monies spent for personal property, but it's kind of hard to tell from a settlement statement, which really just deals with the real property. They've showed us some other additional documentation too, to try to justify what the true fair market value is, but we've not been able to really confirm the reliability of that information.
And through the chair, the amended amount that's shown in this legislation, does that reflect the initial amount that you're referring to, the personal property that the owners are saying is not reflected in the county purchase price?
Yes, through the chair, that would include the purchase price and, like I said, any other documentation that the owner is able to provide that could fairly be considered, or reasonably considered part of the fair market value of the property.
Okay, and through the chair, can you briefly describe the city's responsibility in being a good steward of taxpayer money? Can you simply pay a property owner whatever they ask for, or do you have to, stick to fair market value?
Yes, through the chair, generally we do follow the fair market value rule in order to protect taxpayer funds and not overpay for property.
Okay, and through the chair, typically how long would a negotiation process go on for something like this? I mean, we're talking, it's been going on for approximately a year and a half. Is that standard, or do you consider that a long time for something?
Through the chair, it can depend. It really just depends on the transaction. So this is a bit of a lengthy negotiation, but there was a time period where there wasn't much negotiation, pretty much after the offer that we made in February of 2025, there wasn't much back and forth until more recently.
And is it fair to say, through the chair, that negotiations stalled out?
Yes, I think through the chair, that would be a fair characterization during certain portions of the negotiation period.
Okay, and through the chair, I have a question for Mr. DeLuke. Can you briefly describe why this site is so important? It's my neighborhood, so I'm familiar with the railroad tracks and the constraints, where you can't access the northern parts of the service area for this station. But can you just describe for us why this site and why there aren't very many other sites available.
Through the chair to Councilwoman Hudson, thank you for the question, Councilwoman. Happy to describe. In general, siting a fire station has to meet a lot of criteria that many other facilities don't have to. And there is actually an official score system.
Mr. Chairman, I can't hear down here.
Could
Can you hear?
everyone speak in the microphones?
Is that better?
Yes,
Okay,
it is.
thank you. My apologies.
Thank you, sir.
There are a lot of constraints on putting a fire station, mostly that have to do with ensuring that none of the response times are compromised in that process. It also has to be a certain size, but it also has to be a certain dimension. I think the current fire station sites have all the constraints that prevent us from being able to reutilize the existing site for a new fire station, including the width. The criteria that we have for building a new fire station includes the creation of separate zones to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of all of the personnel. It includes a minimum of 3 bays to ensure that we can always incorporate an EMS unit in a fire station. And for a new station, we always want to ensure that the apparatus can be pulled through from the back to prevent the safety issues around backing up into a station. This neighborhood is a pretty dense neighborhood, requiring a bare minimum of an acre, preference of 2 acres for any fire station site. Other available sites in the vicinity that we explored included 9200, the former Family Dollar site, which is now, we understand, becoming a daycare and is no longer available. And I think as we experienced with Fire Station 26, the assembly of smaller parcels, particularly in a neighborhood where there is not necessarily a lot of vacant land available, land bank or otherwise, this site, because it is so close to the existing station, basically ensures that there will be no compromise to the level of service, but given the lack of availability of other sites of this scale, of this configuration, of this width, all of the parameters I've spoken about, this site meets or exceeds those parameters because it is so close and it is an ideal size. It also contributes to the creation of a kind of civic campus in relation to Cadell Commons, which is seeing a lot of other investment, as is the neighborhood. And I think this ensures that public safety presence continues to be actually incorporated into the growth of the Cadell Commons.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuke. And I just quickly want to add, the site, I think this is a question for Mr. DeRosa. Originally, when this property was purchased by Shaker Madison, what was their intended use for this property?
Through the chairman and the councilwoman, what was their intended use for the property?
Yes.
So their intended use was for a gas station which had some zoning hurdles that were not cleared.
And is a gas station, and so from my understanding, a gas station is specifically disallowed by the zoning in this area. And when you made the initial offer, were they still looking to build a gas station at this site?
Through the chairman and the councilwoman, yes, they were still intending to build a gas station on the site. There was a lawsuit challenging the zoning ruling, and that was still in motion until last fall when the judge ruled against their legal challenge to our zoning rules.
Okay, and through the chair, so you were in negotiations, you made an offer to purchase it for a fire station, and despite that offer, they decided to approach Lanning with another use, which is the current use that they are proposing right now, which is a 5-unit strip mall at the site. Is that correct?
Through the chairman and the councilwoman, I'm not sure how many tenants, but yes, it would be a retail center that, as I understand it, would not require a zoning variance or a zoning change. We have seen some letters of intent, and if those letters of intent turn into leases, then the fair market value of the property would rise.
And through the chair, they did that knowing that after you had made the offer to purchase the property for a fire station, and after it had been denied use as a gas station.
Through the chairman of the councilman, that is absolutely correct, and it appears that they presented those letters of intent to their appraiser, because as I've looked at their appraisal report, it has a value of, say, 1.7-ish for the value as is, and over 2 million if the leases are in place.
Okay, thank you. And so I just want to, reiterate the need for a new fire station at this specific location. There are no other viable sites for a new fire station in the area that would keep the response times where they are now. A new fire station at this location would also have the capability of housing 2 EMS units. One of those units currently is housed at the city kennel, which is far from an ideal situation. And you mentioned the ability to pull through. Right now, you have, not only do you have fire trucks backing in and out of very busy Madison business corridor, you also have an ambulance that is double parked in front of one of those fire engines, which is a potentially dangerous situation at the firehouse. And it has also been brought to my attention that Fire Station 23 is one of the busiest in the entire city. They have more calls than the entire city of Lakewood. So I just want to just reiterate the need for a new Fire Station 23 and the opportunity for this site. Shaker Madison could have sold to the city before, pursuing a new development at this site. However, they, chose not to, and I, fully support the city's efforts to acquire this property by any means necessary. It is a very important public use. And it is, again, this is not the eminent domain piece. This is simply authorizing the negotiations to continue. And I appreciate the council president and this body for hearing this piece today. Thank you.
Thank you. I got Councilman Christopher Harsh, then Polensek, Slife, and Casey.
Can you put me down, Mr. Chairman? Thank you.
Council President, I had an amendment to proffer for this. I can do it now, or I can wait till the end of comments.
Is it something that is, have you at least talked with the council people in that area to make sure that we are consistent with what they're looking at?
It's a council request to remove vagueness on where the funds can be paid from. I'll discuss with them offline if you want.
So basically, this is what so just to let everybody know, this, what we've been tightening up as council is that the administration has a line that pretty much says that they could pull money from wherever, and we've been a little bit more clear on putting language on where that money can actually come from and how we authorize it. So that's what you're talking about, Councilman Harsh.
Yeah, Council President, I'll discuss offline here real quick.
Okay, and
I'll
that's
circle
pretty
back.
much, but go ahead
Yeah,
if you could.
you got it.
All right. I'll go to Councilman Slife and Polensek.
Thank you. And I want to just understand some of this sequentially. And these are just my understandings. It could be a more appropriate question for different departments. But there is a conceptual plan, I understand, through Landmarks to redevelop this property for something that is presumably not a fire station. Is that correct?
Through the chairman and the councilman, I was not at Landmarks, but I understand that there was recently an approval.
Okay, so just to couch all of this, simultaneous to your negotiation, there is another prospective use of this property, and if permits are submitted to the City of Cleveland has an obligation to review those permits and to approve something if it's in compliance with all aspects of the zoning code and other codes. Correct?
Through the chairman and the councilman, we as administration do not have the ability to deny requests for permits or whatnot for no good reason. So if they're properly submitted, just like the zoning variance request, if it was properly submitted, it could have been approved or unapproved, but we don't have the ability to not approve it just because of eminent domain or acquisition.
Okay, so I begin there because I want to understand this amendment that I presume is being brought forth by the administration, which would cap the amount that you could purchase the property for at slightly above $1 million, when we've heard that a $2 million offer was made, and as you noted, it's very common for there to be multiple appraisals. The appraisal provided to this body shows a value of 1.73 million as is, or 2.2 million if improved, essentially stabilized. So I guess what I'm trying to understand is, and I of course want, to Councilman Hudson's point, be a responsible steward of tax dollars, but if we insert an amendment that caps the amount at slightly over $1 million, we essentially are inserting ourselves into the negotiating process by being so prescriptive. So I guess my first question, when that amendment was proffered and brought to this body, had you already received that email from Councilman Shaw showing that alternative appraisal?
So, Mr. Chairman, the councilman, first you need to look at what the body of the ordinance was drafted originally. So just to remind City Council, we introduced this legislation way back in March. So how it got bunched up with the eminent domain ordinance, I don't know, but at some point, since there was no action, they both ended up at MSP committee at the same day. So what I'll say is, when this was drafted and introduced in March, it was, our offer authority was based upon our appraised value, which was $635,000. So what you'll see here today is an amendment which increases our authority to purchase to the amount that was listed in our original offer letter from February. And the reason why we went back to that is because we thought that it was fair to crystallize in an ordinance authority to purchase at the amount that we had originally offered to them, even though we never saw that additional documentation in a form that we could accept it to base our offer amount upon, real documentations that show real cost, as opposed to what is reflected at the county as the purchase price, which in all instances, typically if you buy a property and sell it shortly thereafter, that's the value of the property. Your purchase price is typically the value of the property, unless you can show all these extraordinary situations where there's more value that wasn't reflected in that purchase price. So to your point, it was during the time, literally during the meeting that we're suggesting this amendment, that Councilman Shaw forwarded the appraisal to us. We hadn't looked at it yet, and it had no factor in this amendment. The point was just to be clear that we once made an offer at an X amount. Let's make this ordinance reflect that X amount, but still require that they prove that there were these extraordinary costs that came into the property that wasn't reflected in the purchase price.
Okay, so that's helpful clarification. So through the chair, I guess my next question would be, is that amendment as received by this council still appropriate and something the administration is wanting this body to make, or based on how this has evolved, is there a more appropriate amendment that could guide your negotiation process specific to the value? Because again, if I'm not choosing a side, I'm just reading other people's arguments, they can turn around and have a documentation that says, well, this is worth $1.7 million in an as-is condition, so why are we going to bother negotiating with you because you're capped at slightly over $1 million. There's no room to negotiate over a $700,000 spread. So, and meanwhile, we have permits in for some entirely different alternative use. To the council president's point, if it costs, I think, $12 million to build a new fire station on Kinsman, is this something we need to just be working into the larger project and understand that in order to do what I think is right by the neighborhood and the firefighters, that we need to create the ability for you all to effectively negotiate?
Through the chairman and the councilman, while I would welcome increased negotiating authority, what I had what I had originally intended or thought in my head is if we come to a price that is more than that, we would simply come back to council for an amendment to the ordinance, which is how things would typically work. Typically, you'd have a rationale for the basis of the negotiating authority, and if something more is needed, then we would have to come back to city council and document how these extraordinary costs were justifiable and verified, and therefore we would seek additional authority, a dollar authority from council through an amendment.
Okay, thank you. Council President, I will leave it here for now because I'll let others chime in before I jump the gun. I think it's useful that that was stated on the record because we can reflect back on it, because my concern would be that there could be a party that maybe not understanding that procedure would just choose to not continue with negotiations, feeling that it was a fool's errand to do so. So I'll put a pause there, but that's the thing that kind of jumped off the page to me as you read that amendment in. Thank you.
Councilman, I totally agree with you. That's one of the things that I had discussed is if this needed to increase, will we just simply have to make an amendment? And I actually had the attorneys, and that's what they said that we would actually have to do, so, all right?
I'm sorry, what was
Councilman,
that? You would actually have to make an amendment?
if they negotiate and that amount is not what they settle on, then if it's more, then they would need to come back to council to ask for more dollars to that amendment. Okay? All right, I have Councilman Michael Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, and to the director. I have been to the site, I've walked the site in question, and I've talked both to the previous council representative and have spoken to both of the newly elected members who represent that area, both Nikki Hudson and now Councilman Shaw, who's physically in his ward. I'm very much aware of the needs of the existing firehouse that is presently out there. So I wholeheartedly support the legislation, the action to be taken to undertake the serious negotiations for the site. I want to make it clear to my colleagues that on Wednesday, this coming week at 9:30, we will hear the resolution for the possibility of eminent domain action. That is on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday at 9 o'clock. I want to make everyone aware, again, eminent domain for a public use is available to all of us at this table. I've used it in the past, I'd say at least 10 to 15 times in my own ward to secure property for public use and only public use. It's an extreme measure, but at some point, you have to utilize it. So I'm very mindful of that fact. So I'm here to support the existing legislation. I hope negotiations can work their way through the process. But at the end of the day, we need a new firehouse. This is the best site for the firehouse. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Polensek. Councilman Brian Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, I think you answered my one question about 2 weeks ago. You were Commissioner DeGennaro was in front of MSP with a price of $635,000, and now it's up to 1.2. So, Mr. Chairman, to the director, the city does not have the ability to pay more than fair market value for the property, correct?
Through the chairman, the councilman, so it is our charge to put city dollars to good use. It is possible for city council to authorize through an ordinance a specific amount that is above appraised value.
All right, so just so we know for future reference now, Mr. Chairman, to the director and maybe even the commissioner, the city can pay above fair market value, because we know that Commissioner DeGennaro has come to the table and said we can't pay more than fair market value, which you've stated a number of times when we're dealing with other property for anywhere else, right?
If I said fair market value, I meant appraised value.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, so if there's a difference between fair market and appraised, so then who determines the appraisal then?
Through the chairman, the councilman, when you have competing appraisals?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yeah, I mean, so in this situation, we're gonna I would assume that we'll get our own appraisal, correct? Or we have gotten our own appraisal?
We have ours, Mr.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other party has their appraisal, correct? They're off somehow, somewhere by a lot, I'm going to assume. But we know that that they purchased the property for $500,000, right? So does the appraisals take into account future revenue? Like what could potentially be planned, not what is planned, but what could potentially be planned, because you could build something and it could just fall apart, right?
Yes.
So
through-
how does that work? Because I think that's what we're getting into here.
Yep, through the chair to Councilman Casey, you're correct. When we commissioned our appraisal, our appraiser used what's known as the sales comparison approach and just looked at other sales in the area of like similar properties, and that's what the appraised value was based on. The appraisal that we received last week from the owners looked at the income approach, the potential future earnings for the property. We have not had a chance to go back to our appraiser to discuss the potential to re-examine that. But I mean, at this point, there are only letters of intent for the property. There haven't been signed leases. So I'm not sure if our appraiser is going to be willing to consider future income based on a letter of intent.
Right, so Mr. Chairman, to the Commissioner, I mean, that could be a pipe dream, right? I mean, I could want to build an ice cream stand and say that, in 2 years I'm going to make $3 million, and I could put that on paper, and that could be my dream, right? But there's no actual fact that would happen, correct? All right, and just to go over it real quick, Mr. Chairman to the Commissioner, just to reiterate, when was the property purchased?
Through the chair to Councilman Casey, it was January of 2023.
All right. Is that correct?
25.
January 2025, so almost a year and a half ago. 24?
No, it was 24.
2.5 years ago.
Sorry.
And what was the sale of the property at the time?
$575,000.
And then, Mr. Chairman, to the Commissioner, what was the top price that we have offered for that property?
Through the chair, $1,025,000.
Okay, so
How
in
much?
2.5 years, we offered 1.25 million, correct?
With additional documentation.
Right, but that was our offer, 1.2, correct?
Through the chairman of the councilman, so yes, we offered appraised value because the property owner had verbally told us that there was more that came into that purchase price than what was reflected with the county. And, they had filed border revision statements with the county to reduce the tax value and all that kind of good stuff. So it would be unusual that they had additional valid costs that would come into the value of that property. But we said, okay, share with us those documents and we'll give you this allowance, if you will, of 300 and some thousand if you can document these costs. Because verbally, that's what the kind of thing that they had said went into that price. And we had, not myself, but with the commissioner, many meetings with them. We had a pro bono outside attorney who was assisting us with reviewing this documentation. And at the end of the day, there was nothing that could be documented to come up to that amount. But that's how we made that offer amount of $1,025,000.
All right, well, Mr. Chairman, to the Director, to make $750,000 in 2.5 years, and I've seen the property and nothing's been done to the property, I think that's a great deal. So I'll be supportive of the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Joseph Jones, and then I'm going to have Councilman Tanmay Shaw close us out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at, I like Mike Polensek. I made comments about this in years past and supporting my colleague, Mr. Kelly. And it would be nice if we had a historical perspective on it because there's quite a bit here. And one of the things that I've always believed in is supporting and continue to support my colleagues, but we have to be fair too across the table because this project didn't just come into being. It was the direction of the previous council person, and then it was a mess. And then we had people coming down here talking about it weeks, months, and what feels like forever. And so the person who's doing the development, I don't want us to get lost on the person, the identity, and the investments. And the reason being is because we need all the investors that we can get in the city of Cleveland. And so then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the contrast would say, oh, well, maybe we need a fire station. Okay, so that was the piece. And the administration said, okay, we don't want a gas station here. It's not to be zoned for a gas station. And yet, you know, we're going to use it for a fire station. Less than a half a mile away, you have fire station, what, 33? How many fire stations do you have in the area?
Through the chair to the councilman, the next nearest fire stations,
It seems like you got about 3 or 4 or 5 fire stations within a radius of, what, less than 3 miles?
through the chair to the councilman, I have the map here for reference. The distribution of fire stations is based on need and level of service, which of course is constrained, as we described before, by the exact road configurations here. The nearest,
question was, how many fire stations do you have within a 2-mile radius of that location?
within a 2-mile radius of that?
We can even narrow it down to 1.
I can tell you that the nearest stations are 33, which is down 117th and south of Lorraine, as you know, and Fire Station 24, which is at Clark, not quite as far east as Fulton.
So
And
we
the
got
next-
3 fire stations in addition to Station 38.
In addition to Fire Station 38, there are 2 that are close, and 4 is a little bit farther than 24.
Now, I had to go out to the site because I wanted to do my homework too. I wanted to make sure that whatever I support, it stands the test. And also, you know, the next question is, and I think my colleague brought it up, being fair. And as it relates to the resolution of supporting eminent domain on this issue, now that I've gotten more information in and I want to be fair, I won't support eminent domain. So you can count my vote as a no on eminent domain on this particular subject matter. I don't like to be misled. And so when I looked at this entire section and walked this section here, I also looked at other properties too. So if we can use eminent domain right here, there's a number of areas that I look on this map that we can target and do eminent domain in those sections too if we so decide. So why is this a spot where you just have to have eminent domain here? You just have to take this location for a fire station. Why wasn't there some other areas looked at?
Through the chairman and the councilman, so we have looked at other properties. So first of all, you looked for properties that are for sale. So currently, through the real estate databases, I believe there's 2 properties that are actually for sale that are of a large enough size, but they have structures on them of the magnitude that doesn't make sense for us to purchase in demolition. There's also the factor of what is the highest and best use of the property that might be for sale. So if it's a property that could bring in jobs or apartments or whatnot, then that is something that we should consider, that you don't want to take down a larger building to put in a fire station when that building could have good bones that could be repurposed in another way. This particular property has been sitting vacant for many years. It's been having many complaints from the neighbors that you referenced. We hear at City Council.
I guess the question is, Mr. Chairman, you said you looked at a number of other sites. So what are those other sites?
Do you want to list?
Yeah, through the chair to Councilman Jones, we looked first and foremost at, are there any large land bank properties available nearby? And the answer is no. Then we looked to see what was available on the market, and we looked at the Dollar General at 9200 Madison, but subsequently it was it either changed hands or a tenant was found, and it's under construction. It's actually, I think, open as a new use, so it's not available. We looked at a site between Berea and Madison, which is, I believe, owned by Kelly Plating, and it's too small. I don't think it's necessarily on the market, and we're, we have some
This
concerns.
is not on the market neither, and this has already been purchased, Mr. Chairman.
Run everything through the chair, please.
I am doing it, Mr. Chairman, if you give me a chance. So, Mr. Chairman, this is to the director is also owned, and someone has it.
Through the
So
chair,
why,
that's correct.
so if you're gonna do that, you can look at any property and use eminent domain and make an offer.
Yep,
Why this one?
through the chair, I understand your concern, Councilman Jones. Part of the issue in this area is because of the railroad tracks that run to the north, there's not the ability to move in a north-south direction very easily. And so it's the proximity to West Boulevard, which does traverse the railroad, is really a plus at this location. Plus the fact that it's a corner property, so there's, easier in out. Whereas the existing location, the trucks are backing into the station and
You
holding
could
up.
use eminent domain, Mr.
Councilman,
Chairman,
could
over
we,
here. Mr. Chairman,
the chair,
to the
please.
distinguished lady, you could use eminent domain over here right across the street at Exclusive Group Auto. Why not use that? Why are you so hardwired and bent on this particular property?
So through the chair, we haven't looked at exclusive auto. I believe,
I'm quite sure if you make them, Mr. Chairman, an offer like this, they'll take it.
yeah, unfortunately, I can't
I know
comment
it
on
is
the
a fact,
size of the
Mr.
site.
Chairman.
Yeah, I did not consider that location.
Would you consider it, Mr. Chairman?
We can take a look at it through
I
the
see.
chair.
All right, so now, Mr. Chairman, just looking at this real quick, if I jump over here across the map to something similar to what we're talking about at this site location, because you got to have similar. The site location we're talking about is an old pharmacy, is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct. It's a
Okay.
former CVS.
Former CVS. And I presume there's another CVS for sale? Or a pharmacy down the street?
I believe there is, or there was through the chair, a Rite Aid on West 117th Street.
There's one on West Boulevard as well, Mr. Chairman.
I'm not familiar. It's still
Is
open.
that Lorraine? Is that still open? So they're looking to sell that right now. It's on the market. Are you aware of that, Mr. Chairman?
Not until you brought it to my attention, but
Okay.
we can certainly.
So my question, Mr. Chairman, is what you stated from the very beginning. We want to make sure that this is fair. The person who unfortunately purchased the property was due to the other elected official representing the area. And when this body was prepared to vote for there to be a gas station at that location, and then it didn't happen, and then we had the alternative proposal in lieu of not having a gas station there, then all of a sudden we're going to have a fire station there to justify the whole proposition. So what I would share, Mr. Chairman, just for us to be fair, and this comes down to because I respect your Mr. Chairman, both of these people in front of us. Have we done an official appraisal from the city of Cleveland on the property? Have we had a certified, because I remember years past asking about this, you have your appraisals that are done professionally by outside sourcing. So what was your outside sourcing saying this property is valued at? Because I looked over here at 3171 West Boulevard, and it's appraised at $4 million. It is a CVS pharmacy.
And Councilman, that's going to wrap us up after they do this last
Through,
question.
through the chair, do you mean the tax appraised value? Yeah, so to answer your question, we did commission an appraisal. Sowers Bowie and Associates did the appraisal for us. They updated it in spring of this year. The previous appraisal had been done about a year prior, and the value initially was determined to be $600,000 a year or so ago, year and a half, and when it was updated in the spring, the value came in at $635,000.
I see. Okay, so Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions since the timing of everything.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Christopher Harsh wants to proffer an amendment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to offer the following amendment to Section 4, Line 2. Strike and any other fund or funds approved by the Director of Finance.
Do we have a second? Amendment has been proffered, has been seconded by Councilman Bishop. Is there any discussion? Councilman Brian Casey on discussion.
Just a quick question of where the 1.2 million is coming from then.
This is that's the amendment that he's putting in place, and
Yeah,
he's
through,
putting
through
in
the
place.
chair, the section will read that all costs acquiring, accepting, and recording the land shall be paid from Fund Number 11 SF006, period.
Right, and where's that money coming for that fund? Every piece of legislation that has a fund gets a fund number, but where's the money coming from? Where?
Oh, I'm sorry. Through the chairman, the councilman, I thought you were asking.
No, I'm sorry,
Councilman.
Mr. Chairman, to the director. Where's the 1.2 coming from?
Through the chairman, the councilman, finance department set up those funds. I believe that they may be RIT funds, but I do not know
Yes.
exactly where those funds came from. We would have to ask the director of finance.
He's not in the room, is he?
We'll get
Do we-
clarification
Mr.
on where it
Gentile,
comes from. But, Mr. Gentile, do you want to explain where they're coming from? I did want to just tell everyone that the SF, what was that number again?
1149.
1149?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's SF, 11 SF006.
11 SF.
And Mr. Casey, it's 1,025,000.
Or 1,025,000.
It's not 1.2 million,
Okay.
just so that the parties
Okay.
negotiating are not confused by our authority.
1,025,000, okay.
All right, through the chair, the council person, right now we have 650,000 restricted in there. We'll have to put additional money. That's one reason we had other funds as approved by the finance director, because we have not loaded it past the 650,000 original amount.
And Mr. Chairman and Mr. Gentile, where'd the 650,000 come from?
Through the chair, the council person, it was restricted income tax, so.
So it's RIP
just
money.
part of- Yes, RIP money, correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Harsh has put an amendment on the floor that's been seconded. I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment carries. Therefore, 368-2026 as amended. Councilman Tanmay Shaw would like to close us out.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the team's work on this. To the administration, to the other council members, thank you for your attention to this matter and deep dive that everybody has kind of helped push along. I agree, this is eminent domain is a heavy tool, and we want to be mindful and thoughtful and understand what we're getting into. And I think I want to just, in closing, make a broader point about these negotiations, and not just for this particular parcel, but really where we are as a city and council. At the end of the day, we're here to represent the entire city of Cleveland. That is why I welcome Councilman Jones's interest in this ward, even though it is on the other side of the city, as well as that goes for Councilman Harsh and everybody else's. From the jump, I've started here. I've encouraged everyone to get involved and understand what we're doing together. So I appreciate that. And kind of just to rephrase of like, we're here to represent the whole city. And oftentimes, we're not going to find a common ground with developers or with other entities or other institutions, and that's okay. There's mechanisms specifically set up to find that common ground. Eminent domain is that mechanism. It is not government using its amazing powers to railroad small businesses or developers. It has been a long time honored tradition where government has to have other leverage, and this is what we get to. It is okay if we don't find that common ground. So I want to just kind of couch that in terms of, I know historically we haven't used this, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be using this more. Matter of fact, my point, I think in all my conversations with other council members, has been that we as a city should be utilizing this tool more to push and incentivize the types of development we want to see in our city. This is an important tool, and not utilizing it properly and not exercising that muscle is foregoing a tool in our tool belt. And at a time when we see market forces far outpacing what government is able to do, the speed that we're able to operate, it is important for us to make sure that we have all of these tools available for the administration. So I appreciate everyone's attention and look forward to finding a common ground. And even if we don't, like I said, there is a process for that. And this is what that enables us to do. And at the end of the day, I know we just want the best for the city of Cleveland, and this helps us get us there. So thank you so much, Chair, and I yield.
Thank you. And just a couple of follow-up questions that I want to make sure I understand. Aren't you going to be using or buying some of the school buildings for some of your fire and police safety needs? And are any of those buildings on the west side?
Through the chairman, the councilman, I really appreciate this question because it shows that we do look at all possible locations for our public safety needs. So when Building Brighter Futures came with a slate of schools that they intended to close, the first thing that we did as administration was to look to see if we had other needs that the city could meet with those properties. And we did identify 4 schools that are closing or are closed that could be used for public safety uses. Unfortunately, none of those locations would score well enough. They were not in the right location to replace this particular fire station, but we will be coming through City Council and through discussions about the locations that do work for public safety needs. And if we had one, that was a slam dunk, and we took advantage of all the ones that we could have through the Building Brighter Futures process.
All right. I'm just big on planning, and one of the things that seems to be backfiring on us a little bit is the Stella Walsh location. We put a tremendous amount of dollars in there, and now I'm hearing that it's insufficient, that we put good money into a bad infrastructure, and I just want to make sure that we're being more thoughtful as we move forward on some planning things, because we don't have money to spare to put money into things that we might just be closing down or not be sufficient in the next couple of years. Councilman Slife asked a very important question. The reason that you're not building in the cost of purchasing this property into the entire cost of the building, if it costs about 12 to 14 million to build a fire station, why aren't you just building the cost of demolishing or purchasing the building into those costs?
Mr. Chairman, the councilman, Mr. Chairman, so we do have to account for all of the costs, but you don't want to sell, so the acquisition or the construction is $14 million. So if we allocated all those funds today, so you'd have 14 million just sitting there for a couple years till you got to construction. You'd have the demo money just sitting there until you got to the point of needing it for demolition. You'd have the acquisition money just sitting there until we could actually reach a deal. So we've worked really hard with finance department at the guidance of council to be very strategic with when we take bond funds and how quickly we can spend it. So this is kind of the new world of only pulling down bond funds until you're ready to spend it. And that's why we don't have just a lump of money sitting there until we get to the point that we're ready to build.
Okay, let me say this. I just don't want our actions to be mute. My colleagues have been successful at preventing a gas station in that area due to them and the community's efforts. My colleagues have stated that they would really advocate and would like a fire station in that area. I just don't want us sitting in limbo and having this conversation 3 or 4 years down the line and still no fire station. And quite frankly, I'm concerned because some of the stories that I've heard about the conditions actually concern me. And I'm a little bit concerned on why we aren't moving some of those gentlemen out of there as we speak into other locations. So just so everybody's clear, it's not about a fire station, it's about fairness, but we are committed to making sure that any of our workers are put in the most safe environment as possible. I did want to reiterate what Councilman Slife stated earlier, which I think is critical for the record, is that the $1,025,000 amount is something you guys have the authority to go and negotiate. Once you have the authority to negotiate, if you guys come up with a different price, then you will come back to this council for appropriation in order to increase that amount, right?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
All right. Therefore, with no other statements, ordinance number 368-2026 as amended stands approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have several more pieces of legislation. However, we have guests that have been sitting here for a long time. So what I'm going to try to do is get through Parks and Recreation and then one more couple of other pieces so then we could break for lunch and then reconvene and at least put some kind of dent into the schedule. I did have a couple of requests for some public comment. One of those public comments, we have already heard most of that piece. Therefore, we're not going to re-engage that conversation, okay? All right. First one is ordinance number 614-2026 by council members Bishop, Starr, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Parks and Recreation to enter into one or more contracts with Case Western Reserve University to provide a summer youth sports, nutrition, health, and life skills development program for 2026 under the National Youth Sports Program supported by Case Western Reserve University. I'm going to ask if everyone could limit questions. These have already been heard in municipal services. And once again, you know, if I know we've heard the full presentations in the different committees, so no need for us to revisit and go over them all over again. Director.
Good morning, Council President and Chairman. Thank you for having us here today. I am here with Dennis Harris from Case Western Reserve University and Monique Oluwu, and they are representing Case Western Reserve University. This agenda item is for the continuation of the city support for the National Youth Sports Program at Case Western Reserve University. This provides youth summer sports, nutrition, health, and life skills to our youth. This request is for funding in the amount of $175,000. I was asked at the Municipal Services and Properties Committee what the 2025 award was, and it was $150,000 a year, so this is a small increase. And then with that, I will turn this over to Dennis Harris, who manages the program. If you want to just share a few remarks about the value of this program and the length of time it's been going on, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the City Council. I'm sorry, thank you, sir. Very cool. First of all, I'd like to thank the City Council for, over the years, all the support that you guys have given our program. I'm very proud of our program. We are the only program left in the country out of 200 universities. The ages of our program is age 8 to 16. I've been fortunate to see thousands of our youth go on through our program, go on to college, be homemakers, doctors, engineers, lawyers, NFL players who came right out of Case Western Reserve National Youth Sports Program.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that came out of Case Western Reserve University Sports Program. We're still registering children for our program. It's one of the best programs in the country. We've had 15 countries come to us and try to copy what we do here at Case Western Reserve, our National Youth Sports Program.
Outstanding.
Thank you. We're happy to answer any questions that there are from the chair or any of the other council members.
All right. Once again, this was heard and vetted through Municipal Services. Councilman Bishop.
Mr. Chairman, we fully recommend this for passage. We vetted it in Municipal Services and we recommend it for passage.
Thank you. It was relieved in Workforce. Councilman Starr. Yes. All right. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 614-2026 stands approved. Please sign on. And please, all committees sign. So any committee that you're on, please sign the ordinance, okay? All right, next is ordinance number 617-2026 by council members Bishop, Starr, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Parks and Recreation to enter into an agreement with Neighborhood Leadership Institute to implement educational, recreational, and cultural programs in various school buildings and facilities during evening hours, provide leadership training, and supervise the summer tennis program. Director.
Thank you, Council President and Chair. I'm pleased today to have with me Travell Harp, who is the Executive Director of Neighborhood Leadership Institute. The City of Cleveland has partnered with this organization for many, many years to provide a variety of programs. Their funding request for 2026 remains the same as the 2025 funding request. Their primary programs include a summer tennis program, youth leadership, and then also leadership programs. And then I will turn it over to Executive Director Harp to share a few more details.
Thank you. Thank you so much. First and foremost, I'd just like to thank the body of council for supporting the programming that we provide for the community. Neighborhood Leadership Institute is a community-based organization that our bread and butter is around grassroots leadership development, but throughout all of our programs permeate really leveraging and accessing the human capital within community to address community challenges. And so, like the director said, we do SNR, which is a Schools Neighborhood Resource, which provides recreational programs throughout areas, 6 sites throughout Cleveland. And those, the structures that we utilize are directly from the community. So we get the community and the different gifts and talents that they have. They use that to provide recreational programs within the areas. We also do summer tennis throughout 10 sites throughout Cleveland. And we also do Youth Leadership Cleveland, which is a really good partnership with the Department of Recreation, where we take the young people who work for the Parkwood Recreational Center, and we take them through a leadership course about 16 weeks. And they just recently graduated. I was real proud of them. They had some really nice projects that they did throughout their course.
Thank you. All right. Councilman Bishop, this went through MSP?
Yes, Mr. President, fully recommended for passage.
Thank you, Councilman Starr.
I have no questions. Council President, you can move forward.
Thank you, Councilman Kevin Conwell.
Just leadership, and you guys take the students out and you work with them on leadership. What kind of leadership do you work with them on? Through the chair?
So this is a part of a program, a youth work program that the Department of Recreation does. And so they hire young people from the community to actually work the recreational centers. And as a part of their work and professional development, we provide training similar to our adult Neighborhood Leadership Cleveland. But this was geared towards young people having real conversations around community engagement, how they can get involved, financial literacy, college prep or career prep type stuff, resume writing, et cetera, you name it.
I like to, matter of fact, you and I work out together, and I would like to talk with some of the students, and as I mentioned to you earlier, through the chair, and come visit them, and anything that I can do to help out. And let me say this: you are a leader with good character, honesty, credibility, and integrity. I've been knowing you for a few decades, and you push fatherhood, and I like that as well. And they can learn a lot from working with you. But I would love to, it's not bothering me, to talk with some of the students and see what's what.
Absolutely. We would love to be able to have you guys and extend the invitation to all the body of council to come and actually talk to the young people.
That's what I want.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Council President.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 617-2026 stands approved. Please sign off. Next, we have ordinance number 618-2026 by council members Bishop, Starr, and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Parks and Recreation to enter into a contract with Northeast Ohio Muni Football League, AKA Cleveland Municipal Football Association, doing business as Cleveland Muni Football League, to conduct a citywide youth football program. Director.
Thank you to the chair and the rest of the council members. Unfortunately, my guest, Joe Record and Jason Dunn, who are the leaders of Muni Football, had another commitment they had to leave. So I will just give a brief summary of what we are asking for. So the city has supported the Northeast Ohio Muni Football League for many, many years. They are requesting the same funding that they have received in the past, which is $160,000. This organization provides citywide youth football program, and they have a growing flag football program, which does include girls' league. And so this is a valuable program. It does help provide youth between the ages of 6 and 14 an opportunity to engage in a variety of activities, football-related, cheerleading, basketball, and other sports. We'd like support and are recommending we continue to support Muni football. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Starr?
Yes, Council President, I just want to remind my colleagues this is something we do annually. This program helps support our kids from sports and football, football as well as cheerleading from April up until June, and then from up until end of May, then from June to November to tackle football as well. And also, I would let my colleagues know that we do got a PIF that I will be circulating around today for us to put additional dollars, because they are also expanding their program with track and field, some different basketball initiatives as well to partner with the Division of Park and Recreation. So we do got a PIF that's ready. So if you want to give additional dollars to help support that program, that is great. And then also I will put one request to the director. Once they figure out all the different league schedules, I would love for us to coordinate a day for all of us as a council to come out and see some of the events that they're doing during the duration of the summer, for us to be able to see what is actually going on. And if you haven't been to a Muni League football game, I think you are missing out on how competitive from cheerleading as well as to the actual on the field and the collaboration that they do. So I yield, Chair. I think this is good.
Thank you. And just for the point that Councilman Starr is made, I am putting NEF dollars in it. So anyone who would like to put NEF dollars, one of the things that's appealing about their proposal is that they actually have expanded women's sports to the tune of really creating a good flag football program, which is, we all know, something that is starting to grow with women's sports. Councilman Bishop.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we fully vetted this in MSP, and we recommend it for passage.
Thank you. Councilman Charles Slife.
Thank you. Through the chair to the director, in the summary, it lists all the different locations where teams play. Is it possible to get just a little bit more elaborate? I'd like to understand where all the teams are and where they practice. I will admit that I'm a little unclear on if Muni football is sort of like an overarching organization that works with kind of like sub-grantees, or if they're the direct operator. But I just want to make sure there's a pretty robust football program running out of Gunning Recreation Center that is run by a nonprofit called West Cleveland United. And I'm trying to just understand if this is something that we need to be put money towards elsewhere, or if it's being done through here, and just I want the clarity. I'm not standing in the way of the legislation. I just want to, it'd be good to get a sense of where all of this is happening across the city so that we can plug any holes if there are any.
Through the chair to the councilman, I certainly appreciate that. I recently requested a list of all sports organizations using our fields and facilities, because I really want to wrap my head around who's using what, when, and where. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 618-2026 stands approved. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, before the director leaves, just briefly, now that the mayor supported the closure of Collinwood High School, the after-school program that we funded through City Council, it has disappeared. So I would like someone to tell me, either through your office or the mayor, where after-school recreation is going to take place now in our neighborhood. Big blow to the neighborhood.
Through the chair to the councilman, I appreciate that comment. I'm going to research the organization that had the contract so I can understand. Oh, was.
Yep.
So, I'm not aware that we were changing any funding for that organization.
Well, we funded it.
So we need to find a location.
We need to fund the after-school program, the recreation program. Was at Collinwood High School.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a meeting scheduled with the director. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Next, we have ordinance number 620-2026 as amended by council members Harsh, Santana, Casey, Slife, and Griffin by departmental request. And I will read the amendment. There is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in section 10, at the end, insert that appropriate director shall provide written notice to the clerk of council whenever any purchase is made under this section, which notice shall include the details of any such cooperative purchases. Dated 5/27/2026 by Patricia McGinty Aston. Director.
Good morning, Council President, afternoon, and members. Thank you for hearing this legislation today. Under the U.S. EPA's Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Implementation Program, the City of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, and the City of Paynesville earned grant funding in 2024 as a coalition of governments seeking to implement solar projects in former brownfields, such as landfills. For Cleveland, we'll be putting to use city-owned assets that result in cost savings from locally generated renewable energy for airport operations and CPP customers. If you look on your tablets, there are 2 sites, one at West 11th and Spring Road Landfill, which would be in Councilman Harsh's ward, and that will benefit CPP. The second site is on Coltoff Road, just south of the airport, and that is in Councilman Slife's ward, and that will benefit the operational power costs for Cleveland Hopkins International Airport. The city administration has finalized a grant subaward with Cuyahoga County and the directors of public utilities and port control and finance, with support and coordination with the mayor's office of sustainability. We're seeking authority from council to complete the solar projects on these 2 landfills through progressive design build contracts and other applicable contract agreements. The total amount of the award is $14.8 million and approximately $9 million in tax credits that will fund the projects.
I'm going to turn most of this over to Councilman Casey, but I do have a quick question. I thought that there was a holdup because we were trying to figure out if we were going to allow the county to have access to our landfill.
So to the chair, these are 2 projects that are city-owned projects. There was a 3rd project, and that is no longer part of this. And that was the issue.
So that was the project in Slavic Village where the county wanted to basically be able to utilize our power or something, and we carved that part out of the agreement.
To the chair, yes, that project at Harvard landfill was deemed not feasible as a part of this grant project. The grant has a certain timeline within which we have to accomplish different, we have to hit different timelines. So the first 2 at Coltoff and at West 11th were feasible, and the one at Harvard is not feasible.
So
That's
we
correct.
didn't lose the grant, because the grant, if I'm not mistaken, was originally about 21 million, right, or something?
To the chair, yes. It was about $21 million. Now it's 14.82. We worked with the county, the grant.
To amend the grant.
Correct.
So we basically agreed not to agree on that Harvard landfill and amended the grant to just accommodate Paynesville and the other sites that we own.
Yes, to the chair, that's a very good characterization.
Okay. Councilman Brian Casey.
Mr. Chairman, this was duly vetted and recommended for passage out of utilities.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Santana.
Also, CP duly vetted and recommended for passage.
Thank you. Councilman Charles Slife.
Same.
All right. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 620-2026 stands approved. Please sign on. I'm going to really try to get through these next 3 pieces very quick, if we could. All right. One is ordinance number 603-2026 by council members Griffin and by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Human Resources to employ 1 or more consultants or firms of consultants to provide professional services necessary to analyze healthcare providers' benefits and claims, and to evaluate proposals received for benefit management services for a period of 1 year, with 3 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Human Resources. Director.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. Yes, this first piece here is to give us the ability to bring on a healthcare consultant beginning in 2027. Just some notes about the importance of a healthcare consultant. Currently, our consultant is James B. Oswald, but they do a lot of work for the city, including helping us design and optimize healthcare plans and programs. They assist us greatly with cost containment related to those plans and programs. They advise us routinely on regulatory issues, compliance, and law changes. They provide quite a bit of benefit to attraction and retention of employees through those plans and programs. They also do provide us administrative relief in a lot of the tasks that our department would be responsible for, including RFP design, wellness program design, and some other things, based on best practices and, institutional knowledge through what they do every day. And then finally, just a lot of support with all the changes that we have through the year, and then help us establish communication plans, in most of our programming to employees. Certainly happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you. Councilman Christopher Harsh.
Thank you. Through the chair, what is the cost of this contract? Through the director.
Through the chair to the councilman, we have not issued an RFP yet for a contract. There is an estimated dollar amount, but we have not issued an RFP yet.
So, through the chair, the administration is just seeking blanket approval for whoever wins the RFP and whatever amount they win it in? There's no mention of cost on this or even a shall
It says
not exceed.
175,000.
I'm sorry, that I'm reading wrong. Where is, what
Section?
section?
Certification of funds. Could you go over that, Director, if you could?
Sure, Chairman. To the councilman, we have requested no greater than 175,000 per year, but we have not actually issued an RFP nor entered into contract or requested to enter into a contract yet.
Okay. Through the chair, I appreciate that this wasn't included in what's on the
and
tablet.
that's what I was going to ask. Why isn't that in the legislation?
It's not written into the legislation, right?
Why don't, just procedurally, why isn't that in the legislation?
Through the chair, that I can't answer. I don't know if we would put that in the legislation without.
You can always add it to the file, which you have been, but it's always a good idea to put it in
into the legislation. Okay, I understand.
Please proceed, sir.
Just a quick note too to the councilman. The amount that we have been paying and the requested amount is much lower than the city had paid historically with a previous vendor. So we're certainly going to look to continue to have the increased service but the lower cost.
I'm sorry, I was going to ask that. So through the chair, have we previously been employing a contractor for these purposes?
Through the chair of the councilman, yes, we have.
And through the chair, how much are those contracts?
Through the chair to the councilman, the current contract year with Oswald is less than this 175,000. I don't have the amount on me right now. I can get that for you.
Yeah.
Historically, though, with the previous vendor, it was substantially more prior to going to Oswald. So we actually lowered our cost quite a bit when we switched vendors.
Well, through the chair, we're increasing costs here because the Oswald contract is less, so this 175 is more than the current contract. So that's an increase. Through the chair, is this 175 per year? So or is it for the entire renewals periods as well? Does the 175,000 include the renewal periods, or would you expect that the 175,000 per year is also renewed?
Through the chair to the councilman, it's per year. And what I was referring to earlier was historically our costs for healthcare consultants to the city was substantially higher than even what we're requesting with the 175 per year moving forward. Taking into account that with each year there's going to be some expectation potentially of somewhat of an increased cost. But I was referring more to just to historical costs the city's paid.
So through the chair, I just want clarity on this. Is the $175,000 sought by this ordinance the maximum amount that this ordinance can spend? Or can that 175 be renewed every year so that a new 175,000 is spent each year?
Through the chairman of the councilman is per year.
So the 175,000 times till 2030 per year.
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Chair, this is a finance issue. It doesn't go through another committee. I think this goes straight to finance. So I haven't really had a chance to think much about this, but it would be nice to know what current contracts cost. Whenever HR comes up, I always scratch my head wondering why we don't do this in-house. This seems like the responsibility of the city to just simply be able to do these things. We've got 8,000 employees. We should be able to answer healthcare questions on their behalf. I get confused about these contracts that go externally. And since I'm not familiar with the existing contract, I don't know how to couch this into that existing sort of status quo. It feels a little suspect, but if my colleagues assure me that this is just the way we do things, then I will accept that. But those are my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Traditionally, we have done this, but I do agree, at some point in time, it'd be good for us to analyze all the contracts and consultants and see what we recommend should be done in-house, because I do agree a lot of this can't be done in-house. I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, Councilman Joe Jones and then Starr? Jones and then Starr.
Mr. Chairman, quickly, looking at this particular piece of legislation here, I just got a couple of questions here as relates to it. You've had a consultant for quite some time. Do you guys have reports from these consultants that tell us, because you're talking about, I think you used the term containment, benefits containment. I like it. That's a way of saying, hey, how do we contain this cost? So how many employees are we talking about that these consultants will be dealing with? Would it be just, because I know that there's a number of human resource systems throughout the entire city of Cleveland. Would this be an assessment of all of those, including the airport and our subsidiaries?
Through the chair to the councilman. So, yes. I mean, when we start talking about containment or cost containment, we're talking about anything that relates to the healthcare primary programs or ancillary programs or wellness programs for everyone covered, which actually is far greater than just the 8,000 employees.
It's far greater than 8,000 employees?
It covers all what we say belly buttons, which is all of the employees plus all of their dependents.
I see, and their dependents.
That's correct.
Okay, so then the next question would be, how much is our health care cost on an annual basis?
Through the chair to the councilman, for 2026, our budgeted health care costs are $130 million. That includes primary medical care and prescription drug, which, just as a side note, the company that we do use currently helped us with several cost containment measures over the last 3 years, which have saved the city a very large sum of money. To the tune of millions. So with that said, I just want to add in the note that these are the experts in the field. These are the experts who have strong relationships with all of these vendors that can help us do a lot of this work. And $175,000 as compared to what we've saved is exponentially better.
You know what, Mr. Chairman, would be also very helpful in the future moving forward is when we have the Department of Human Resources legislative summary concerning these pieces, is to be able to show what these people have done, some kind of background, say, hey, we've had this person for 2 years, 4 years, and this is how much we saved. So it's a suggestion. It would help me to understand it better with employees and employees' cost and how much money has been saved to justify the whole proposition of why we're even doing this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Starr.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just from this ordinance standpoint, I just want to put it on the record, if it's any way that we can ensure that ordinances like this through HR is properly vetted in a committee, if we could possibly sign this to more so the Workforce Education Training and Youth Development Committee going forward, I think it can be able to have an opportunity for us in that committee to actually vet what is going on from an HR standpoint. Because one of the things that I did just look at is this obviously was introduced. The file was created on May 7th, 2026, but it was introduced on council floor May 11, 2026. And then May 12, 2026, we did very much well, so have held a Workforce Education Training Committee where we met with the Director of HR as well as Civil Service to talk about different things that they're doing, where I believe we could have possibly even heard this legislation to get our thoughts, our questions that you have heard from other council members for us to properly vet. So I definitely would like to just put an ask from you, Council President, as well as to our staff. When it comes to HR, workforce initiatives, if we can possibly assign it to the Workforce Education and Youth Development Training Committee, we could possibly vet those different legislations so we can be able to have our questions get asked so it could be more of a flow when it comes to finance through the Council President.
Thank you, sir. I'll take a look at that. Usually when it's finances piece like this, we usually have brought them straight through, but we'll consider looking at that, especially when it's time constraints, okay? All right. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 603-2026 stands approved. I would ask all of us to adjourn, and if we could reconvene by 1:15, that'd be great. Thank you.